Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day Faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear liners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you could pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
You better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romancing the Podcast. Ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, I'll have what she's having.
I'm on the Wikipedia page, just like looking through.
Blaine, I can just tell you're like reading something. You're you're like
hell
so
yeah.
into it. It's so funny.
I'm super bummed because apparently there was a canceled sequel.
What?
Oh, no shit. That would have been way better than Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, I think it's because it was for the fucking terrorists, man. It's because of 9/11, dude.
There are a lot of correlations between
understand.
this and 9/11, though. And I don't know if we should. We haven't even started the episode yet, and it's already come up.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
And I'm Todd Schlosser, and this week, you already heard him, but joining us is Blaine Gibson.
Blaine Gibson.
I just realized this is Romancing the Pod.
Yeah.
Because I've always been on Horror Version.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this intro? What are you guys doing? Hey, Blaine here. Huge fan of the show. Super glad to be here.
Yeah, you've never been on Romancing the Pod. This is the one you haven't done yet.
Yeah. Thanks for completing the set.
Yeah, I'm completing my Infinity Gauntlet of Paige's podcasts.
Yeah, there you go. I will say, because we let you, this is one that you chose, that you wanted to do. And I have given the same offer to Chris Damaris forever ago, and he chose a very different movie that we still have not done yet. So he can still do it.
Are we allowed to talk about what that is? Can we tease?
I'll talk about it. Yeah, no, he chose A Walk to Remember.
Yeah.
What?
We've been holding this movie and A Walk to Remember for you two, specifically.
I mean, I guess they're both on brand in some way.
Oh, I think both of the choices make sense, but we should say that for you, the movie we did was True Lies. So what was the first time you guys saw this?
Oh my God. I remember we had it on VHS.
Yeah.
Because I remember distinctly Arnold Schwarzenegger holding a gun. There's just like so many things that are ingrained in my memory from this, even down to like the weird tech that they use. There's all 90s future tech and
that Windows 3.1
Yep.
future tech.
I was like, he's hacking with Windows?
the camcorder at the end, the Jamie Lee Curtis dancing. I remember it all.
A plane that works like a hoverboard.
What was your first time, Paige?
Okay, so I saw this definitely as a child.
Yep.
With your dad, I'm sure he forced it on you.
100%.
I say that with the utmost respect because I would as well.
And I had not watched this movie in probably 20 years, close to it, maybe 15.
Really?
In part because it had not been available for streaming for so long.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember the last time I watched this movie.
Oh, that sounds like it may not have been a good experience. Hang on.
I want to preface the story I'm about to tell by saying no kink shaming. That's not what we're about.
Excuse me, everyone, while I lean in.
So at the time, I was I think I was probably about 20, maybe 21. And I lived with a roommate at the time, and we shared a bedroom in the living situation that we had.
I mean, was it like a college dorm type situation where it was like 2 beds in a room kind of thing?
Yeah, it was like a condo off campus, but yeah, we shared a room.
Yeah.
And she had disclosed to me that there was an element to her and her boyfriend's sexual relationship. And that was that occasionally the men she dated enjoyed wearing femme-presenting lingerie during sex.
Okay.
Not hurting anybody. Consenting adults having fun.
Whatever. That's fine. Can I just pause right now and say, at what point does this relate at all to the topic of today's podcast episode?
You know I would not lead you astray. So she had been dating this one guy. He seemed pretty cool. And then they broke up seemingly rather suddenly. And I was like, hey, what happened to that guy? He seemed cool. And she was like, oh, it was a lot of stuff. There was like, maybe cheating had happened. She wasn't really sure. And she was like, but honestly, the icing on the cake was the last time we had sex, he got new lingerie and he slicked his hair back and he just looked like Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies. And I couldn't stop thinking about it every other time we were together. And we could not stop laughing. And we were like, what? Whatever it was, the mix of like him and that particular lingerie, that's what it looked like. And so as we found out that he definitely did cheat on her, we got drunk and watched True Lies to celebrate the breakup. And that was the last time I watched this movie.
Hell yeah.
That's amazing. Pretty sure the first time I saw this movie was immediately upon birth. I don't know. This is like one of the movies that I've always seen. It's like I don't have a memory from before it. Really?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a great way of putting it. That's just like, it's one of those movies that just transcends childhood. You just like, it was just there. It was always there.
And I was the youngest of like my initial family group. So like I saw Star Wars way before I remember anything in my life, you know? So like Star Wars is another franchise that I'm like, yeah, I've just always known this story because it's always been a part of my life.
Right. And it's kind of a bummer because you miss the finer details like certain plot points and stuff like that. Like you don't get to have the appreciation from an adult's mindset because you've known it since childhood. But like, I think I did go back and it had been years because like Paige, you mentioned it, unless you had a physical copy, you weren't finding it.
Right.
On any streaming service.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on a mission to find True Lies at a Half Price Books. Like this is like 2-3 years ago before they had released it on streaming.
Yeah. Well, I remember you telling me about this, that you like found it.
I think I texted you. Yeah. Yeah. I found the DVD copy at a Half Price Books. And I was even telling the cashier, I was like, I just struck gold. This is gold, dude.
Yeah. That was the only way we watched it after that breakup was that my roommate had it on DVD.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is such a good movie. And like, as you know, I'm obsessed with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Of course.
This is, I think, probably one of my favorite Schwarzenegger movies. Easily top 3.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I feel like this is 2 to 3 movies in one technical movie.
This would be a great 10-episode series.
That's what I was thinking. This happens occasionally where we see something and it's like, this would actually be a better TV series than a movie. And this is 100% one of those, because what we get in a movie that is almost 2.5 hours long, by the way, is we get a full hour of just an action spy movie.
Yep.
Perfection. No notes. Go on, please.
A whole middle hour, almost a full hour, like 45 minutes, of essentially the movie we watched last week, but a better version of This Means War, of one man stalking the woman he's in love with.
Yes, and it is sort of spy versus spy, except one of them's only pretending to be a spy.
Correct.
Also, no notes, because Bill Paxton's a gem in this movie.
Oh, Bill Paxton's my favorite part of this movie. But then we get a last half hour of Mission Impossible 3 through 7 or whatever.
Yeah, it's perfection.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining why the movie is wonderful.
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just saying that this is what it is. That's why it feels like 2 to 3 movies, but it's never boring. Like normally I would say this is paced crazy, except there's no point at which you're like, man, this is dragging. You're just like, is that horse in an elevator? Like,
I did write that. I was like, oh shit. I didn't remember the horse going in the elevator. You don't need the horse on the roof.
Yeah.
And the horse proves why you shouldn't take a horse on the roof, guys.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why he picked horse anyway. They're not as fast as motorcycles.
Yeah, there's no way that horse was jumping a 4-lane road from roof to roof.
But the distance.
No, Blaine, no, there's no chance that horse
Because the building
died.
is lower and it would have landed in a
impact in the
pool.
pool. Stop being a Schwarzenegger apologist.
No, I've seen that movie about diving horses at weird carnivals. I think the horse would have survived.
Oh my God, Paige, that lady was blind.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw it too, but I have no idea what it was called.
I don't remember.
It's got to be like a weird name, like Whispers in the Wind. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, I'm gonna find this out right now. Blind horse jumping movie.
You lost me. I have no idea what movie this is.
Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken.
Okay, I was close though, right? Like that's close.
And it's based on a true story of Sonora Webster, who is an orphan from rural Georgia who became the featured attraction at Atlantic City's Steel Pier, diving from a 40-foot high tower into a tank while astride a horse.
It sounds like a mid-90s
1991
load of garbage. Yeah.
Yeah. Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. It's wild. I feel like I watched that in some sort of like doctor's waiting room or whatever.
It is the Highlights magazine of movies. But Paige,
100%.
I kind of feel like this movie is the opposite of that because you're right. For all three of its very different sections, I was here for it.
Yeah.
I think it may be Tom Arnold's best movie, which maybe isn't like a too tall bar to clear, but he's specifically great in it.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is incredible. Like it's such a good buddy cop movie as well. Like that's the other thing about this movie is it's so many genres, like you mentioned before.
Yes.
It's action, it's romance, it's buddy cop, it's spy, it's like
It's everything.
it's family. It's like it's so good. If someone's listening to this episode and they haven't seen True Lies, please pause and go watch it. I think it's on Hulu.
It is.
But it's also worth buying.
Be prepared for a wild amount of misogyny and Islamophobia, but also remember, it was 1994.
They did do something that I thought was fairly progressive for the time. It might have been just a plot point, but one of the guys on their team was like a Middle Eastern gentleman.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, they did representation. They kind of checked that box a little bit.
Okay.
But again, this isn't me trying to be a James Cameron apologist or anything like that, because it is a very outdated movie.
Mine was a very different note, which is later in the movie, they're making a video to say why they wanted these nukes and whatever. And they're like, Americans have been drawing our borders and blowing us up for years. You're way more overpowered than us. We have not fought back. You have invaded. You're going into our governments. And I was like, he's right about all of this. And then he's like, but the battery runs out. And then they're like, great, kill all of them, kill the entire room. And I was like, oh, right, this movie happened during Desert Storm.
Yeah.
Like, this movie doesn't have the 20 years of context where we're like, we were kind of the villains in a lot of this.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's about to make that speech and then everyone dies. And you're like, never mind.
Yep.
This was 2024 glasses on a 1994 movie.
Yeah, this is 30 years later.
Oh, yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hasn't aged a day like fine wine.
I mean, I complained during Mr. and Mrs. Smith a couple weeks ago because I felt like the action scenes weren't good enough. They weren't shot as well. And they weren't inventive. It was just people shooting at each other the entire time. And this movie is like, if you took my note from Mr. and Mrs. Smith and was like, all right, we'll put a horse in an elevator. We'll shoot a rocket launcher inside a van. Like, what more do you want?
Even the opening spy mission and the snow chase with like masked guard dudes in snow gear.
Fucking incredible cold open.
Literal cold open.
I mean, the crazy thing is, this is also like James Cameron was like, I'm going to make a James Bond movie. I don't fucking need James Bond.
Yes.
And he doesn't. I would have taken 20 of these.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
With him and Tom Arnold. I'd watch more of this.
Well, I think that they did do there was a Netflix series or something, Fubar or something, that was like supposed to be a spiritual sequel, but nah.
It wasn't as good. But I literally, in my notes, I just have, this is one of the best cold opens I've ever seen. And it is, and I say cold open, it's 20 minutes long.
Yes.
Like, it's the length of a first act.
Yeah, Paige, like this movie is 2.5 hours, like you said, or almost.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take us that long to talk about because a lot of it is like, and a lot of shit blows up. And then the next scene.
A lot of shit blows up. It's fucking rad.
It is.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And man, for 94, some of the effects at the end when he's like flying the Harrier and like grabbing Eliza Dushku and like for 1994, that looks pretty good still.
Looks amazing, yeah.
It looks good even though it defies the laws of physics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, no, it's not like logical, but it looks all right.
Wait, but they would have had the Harrier that did the bottom thruster things by that point, right?
Oh, you see him actually pivot in the movie, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like in order for those thrusters to work, don't they have to be like a certain distance? Like it works so that they can take off, but you can't just like hover at the height of a skyscraper, I don't think. I could be wrong. A few weeks ago, we learned that I believed that SEAL Team 6 was only 6 people and have believed this for 20 years and had no idea that was not the case.
That happened live on an episode,
Yes.
Blaine.
SEAL Team 5, only 5 guys. The
Yeah.
further
Only 5
down you
guys.
get, the more specialized and fewer people they have.
And SEAL Team 1 is the CEO of the SEAL teams. That's how it goes. That's the leadership
Of
structure
course.
of SEALs teams.
I did not realize there were other numbered SEAL teams. So I could be very wrong about this airplane. I will say, though, there is a whole section in the middle of this movie that gets the overboard treatment of where the premise is so incredibly flawed and toxic and terrible that you kind of have to like not argue about it anymore and be like, no, I know. It's the worst, but that is the universe we live in. And so we have to take it as it comes. And that'll be pretty fun to talk about too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Bill Paxton said that upon another modern viewing, ooh.
Well, I mean, he's not positioned as a good character, guys. Like, he's crushing it, but he's a bad dude in real life.
Yeah, no matter what person it comes from, ass like a 10-year-old boy is never a good
Thank you.
comment.
I was
It's
like,
never
what
good.
is happening? I'm more concerned with her husband, who is, air quotes, the good guy, lying and kidnapping her and then setting her up to potentially perform sex work for the government and then being like, just kidding, I've been lying to you the entire time. We've been role playing without your consent. That's the part that I was like, oh no.
Paige, did you
Yeah.
not see the rose he bought her? Like, it's gonna be fine.
I mean, but this is the same as with Overboard, where you're like, they've got a ton of chemistry. If you forget that he kidnapped a woman with a brain injury.
He literally puts them in a situation where they both get kidnapped and, like, they probably would have died, right? Like,
Yeah.
even when he was under truth serum and she was like, are we gonna die? He was like, yeah, we're gonna die.
Everyone dies sometime, right?
No, but he was like, he listed off the 9 ways that they might die tonight.
Yeah.
It was great.
Romantic.
Okay, you may not say it's like super romantic, but like when he lifts her up out of that limo and it crashes and kills
Boom.
the possible side piece, I realized they weren't, but like, you know, she sort
Sure,
of thought they
sure.
were. And like that was the stand-in for her, unfortunately. But you're like, they're going to figure it out, these two.
Oh no. I mean, like, again, this is the Mr. and Mrs. Smith I want.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what, too? I just had this realization because, okay, a really quick story, then we could get into it.
Okay.
I learned in school, in psychology class in college, that they're like, if you ever want to go on the greatest first date ever, you take them to a theme park, and then their brain will associate like roller coaster rides and shit like that with like you. And that association, now they're going to be thinking like happy dopamine, crazy adrenaline, and you. So whenever they do the whole like helicopter thing and she's literally flying through the air being held onto by her husband and they just like kiss romantically there when the nuke is about to go off, she was probably fueled off of adrenaline. It wasn't love. It was just like,
Oh, yeah.
the chemicals in my body are about to explode.
I mean, she definitely was. This is why I think the best dating service or rekindling your relationship that's sort of gone stagnant service would be like the Michael Douglas movie, The Game, but like for someone you're like trying to like get to that next level with. That would be.
The Game is a great movie.
It is.
Also, this is why dudes on The Bachelorette have unfair advantages when they get to go on like a fuel,
Yes.
crazy like a helicopter skydiving. It's like they're gonna be like, I love that guy.
I love that guy. We watched Too Hot to Handle. That's Todd and I's trash dating show of choice.
Cool.
And they always send them on crazy dates like that, but then they edit the dates for like TV. So it's only the like flirting that works. And so it seems like this super hot romantic date. And you're like, In reality, they're sitting there with a bunch of PAs like, yeah, can we take your ass is fine one more time? Like, let's go. But also, my husband can only hear my side of this through the door and just texted, I hate that the one line that sticks in my brain from True Lies is Bill Paxton's pitch perfect dickhead character yelling, ass like a 10-year-old boy. And I was like, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
I had a friend, Josh, we worked at Rooster Teeth together, and that was like the moment I knew he and I were going to be incredible friends, because we were just like talking about something, and then he said, ass like a 10-year-old boy. And I was like shot back into 1997 watching that movie, and I was like, oh my God.
All right, well, maybe we should just go through this movie scene by scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it.
We open on credits that looked like they were about to be boring, Todd, but they weren't.
They were not.
It was like two names. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron, title card.
Yeah, like they're like, what fucking else do you need?
No more.
Come on.
You've seen fucking Terminator. What the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, anyway, the rest of the credits play over one of the best cold opens of all time. Set at, it says, the Chiron says Lake Chapeau, Switzerland. And I was like, Lake Hat? But
Is that what chapeau means in Switzerlandese?
in French, yeah.
French? Okay, cool.
Yeah, Lake Chapeau. Anyway, we get from the best era of James Cameron, an amazing, could be its own James Bond movie, cold open, where Arnold Schwarzenegger scuba acetylene torches through a gate, swims up like an ice river, pops up, calls into the van, which is Tom Arnold and the other guy.
The best bassiest sound track, just doom, doom, doom.
It's amazing. And he's wearing a dry suit, not a wetsuit. So when he takes off his like scuba gear, he's wearing a full tux like
full
he's Jack
tuxedo?
Donaghy. It's insane.
It's clearly another cut, but I don't care.
Me either.
Because like he's in like that skin tight suit that does look wet on the outside because he just came out of the water.
Oh, it is totally wet. Yeah.
And then in the next scene, he's already peeled it half off and has a full dress shirt with a bow tie
already on
underneath it.
And I love that this is 94, guys, and his dress shirt, not at all wrinkled. It's perfect. It's mashed up under that wetsuit, but it's fine, guys.
No, it's like super CIA spy fabric that doesn't need to wrinkle.
It was hella starched. This was 94. That's the best they could do.
No, Todd, they actually have special fabrics for tactical suits for the Secret Service and stuff. They have had them for years.
Whoa.
It's wild.
I gotta get me some of that Secret Service suit.
Secret
I actually
Service
talked to a
suit.
Secret Service agent last night.
I was being arrested.
I was in Philly until 4 o'clock this morning when I had to fly home. But my hotel was very close to where Kamala Harris was staying for the night before the debate today.
She stopped at Penzies.
Yeah.
I was like, that lady knows how to cook. Respect.
I just like that Tim Walz is using this as a food tour across the United States. Every time I see his Instagram post, he's trying out a new burger or something. Good for him, Tim.
I love it. I was like, good for you, Uncle Tim.
There
have
you go,
fun.
bud.
Eat that cheesesteak. Let's go. Anyway, he also places a C4 detonator. Not Tim Walz. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
From now on, I want you to picture Arnold Schwarzenegger as played by Tim Walz.
Yes.
For the rest of the episode.
Every bathroom should have free tampons and a C4 detonator.
And a talk boy from Home Alone 2 that I'm going to use in
Home
one
Alone
scene
2.
very specifically.
Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger, now fully tuxedoed, sets a C4 detonator that will come into play about 20 minutes from now.
Yes.
In the van, Tom Arnold and the other guy whose name I did not remember, who was only in 3 scenes of this film. Yep. They're like, all right, you're set, go to your earpiece, walk through. And he walks through a party fully like James Bond. And it's like, this is for art collectors. He's this sort of dictator guy, but he buys a lot of this art. That's why Tia Carrere is there, fresh off of Wayne's World 2. Like, perfect.
Yeah. Peak Carrera, guys.
Dude, she is a fox, but also like a 6'2", 240-pound bodybuilder waltzing through a party. Like, no one's gonna spot this fucking guy. I've thought this for years. Like, I love Schwarzenegger. The worst spy you can imagine. You would see that guy and you're like, he's a lethal weapon. He's like a murder
Right.
He
machine.
doesn't at all look like Mel Gibson, for the record. But I understand what you're saying. The dude is like shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah.
Love it. I do feel the same way. I went on a Jean-Claude Van Damme binge last year.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was hilarious how many times that he would just walk in and be like, I'm American from New York. And you're like, what? If it's not the accent, like when you watch Jingle All the Way and he's just like, I'm just a suburban American dad.
You're like, this guy is a German or Austrian spy, like for sure.
100%.
And a bad one.
Every time. And I feel the same way when he walks in anytime he's trying to be a spy or a CIA guy or like an army dude.
I mean, Tom Arnold would blend in America. Like,
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger does not blend in middle America. You know what I'm saying?
Or anywhere for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, he's
you
too
would see him
big.
and you'd be like, that's the most beautiful giant man I've ever seen.
I think beautiful is a stretch.
But it is great though, like while he's walking through, there's like an alert on the radio and the guards start scrambling. And that's when he turns to like look at a statue or something like that.
Yeah, and they just walk past him.
Yeah, and it's like, no, they would have noticed that guy though. He's huge. They'd be like, look at the ass on this guy. Holy shit.
That dude's fully
Where does he
caked
buy
up. It's
pants?
a shame we gotta
Yeah.
go run and check out that alarm.
I know.
But this is where he meets Tia Carrera though, because he starts to like talk to her about the antiquities or whatever.
Art.
Well, we can't quite skip to her yet because he notices her. She sees him. But then he goes upstairs and plants the drive that's going to transmit the data
Yeah.
for the very vague terrorist plot in this film.
Well, this guy is actually just like the Bin Ladens, right? He's like the funders of terrorism.
Yes,
Right?
yeah. They're funding terrorist groups from exactly. It never nails down a specific country.
Yeah. It's not the 9/11 report page. It's not going to get into all that. Yeah.
No. Well, and whenever they're like, you know, you've done this to our and it lists like 6 countries, and I was like, okay, so it's all of it. Like you refused to nail it down to one. It's just general Middle East.
Yeah.
Because again, it's 1994, and this movie was made in America.
Yeah.
So he plants the thing to get the knock list or whatever, and then comes down the stairs. And this is where, as he's coming out of setting the drive, there's a security guard, and he's just like, where's the bathroom? I got to take a wicked piss. And the guy's like, oh yeah, downstairs. And he's like, in perfect Arabic. And in the subtitles, it says
In
perfect
yeah.
Arabic. Like they were like, don't act like Arnold Schwarzenegger can't speak Arabic perfectly.
I do like that the subtitles were like, you guys don't know this because you're dummies, but he fucking nailed that line delivery.
He nailed it. But also I was like, you can't just say Arabic. I mean, I guess in 94 you probably just
Is
did.
it pronounced Arabic?
No, I'm like, do you mean Farsi?
I know.
Do you mean like
know.
which
Hey.
language do you mean? But anyway, perfect Arabic. And that triggers the guard to be like, what the hell? Wait, is that a 6'2" Austrian guy speaking perfect Arabic? That doesn't
That
fit
in and
anywhere.
of itself would be hella suspicious, right?
Yeah. In my mind, that's Cameron making a joke because the guy can't even speak perfect English. So there's
Right.
no way that he's also speaking quote unquote perfect Arabic.
It'd be way funnier to me if he did. But yeah, that's how I feel about Arnold Schwarzenegger speaking perfect Arabic. I mean, good for him for learning Arabic for this movie, I assume.
Yeah. Way to go, big guy.
Way to go, big guy.
Anyway, he goes downstairs and immediately they're like, yeah, that guy's definitely a spy. So all the security guys scatter, but either they don't give a description or what. Because
Well, they don't know who it is yet, Paige.
but just say the 6'2" dude.
I know, I mean,
like
they're
the
dumb.
giant.
Well, I mean, that guy who like directed her to the bathroom isn't the one who called the alarm. The guy who called the alarm was the guy who saw the hole in the ice. So the guy who saw the hole in the ice has no idea what the guy looks like.
The guy in the bathroom does call an alarm.
I think he checks in with the radio, but they don't give a description because he's dancing around and they're like closing in on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I just saw something weird upstairs, but he doesn't give them a description.
Yeah, because he's the worst security guard ever.
He's the worst security guard ever.
Hey, what did he look like? I'm sure it's not a big deal. Let's not dabble in the details, man.
No distinguishing characteristics or accents or mannerisms.
Have we seen a second indication of some sort of break-in, guys? It's fine. Oh, wait, there's a hole in the ice?
I would be more like, hey, one of the party guests died in the pool. Like, we need to get
Yes.
scuba
Yeah.
divers because someone
He fell
just
in 'cause
died.
He was drunk and we have to fish him out. Yeah.
That would be my first inclination.
Oh, that's right, because he gets that guard on his way in and just like...
Yeah.
Anyway, as the security guards are running by, he leans over to look at some of the art, and that's when Tia Carrere comes up and is just like, hey, I'm the art lady. And he's like, you must be the art lady. And they're like, yes.
Juno Skinner.
Yeah, her name is Juno Skinner, which I also think is sort of like a nod to James Bond naming, right?
Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
It's no Xenia on a top, but like it's pretty
no Pussy
close.
Galore, but it's
Or
you know,
Plenty O'Toole.
it's a little salacious. I wouldn't say it's salacious as like the 60s Bond names, but they're pretty much like slapstick.
Those are my favorite.
I know.
Anyway, so they're talking about the art, and she's like, yeah, I help people acquire these pieces. That's how I know Khalid, who is the funder of this group. She's like, I've been working with him to move these pieces out of countries that won't let us move them out of the country. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're historical artifacts.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why you shouldn't take them from the countries and then just put them in lobbies of buildings, we find out she's doing later.
Paige,
Yeah.
are you saying that these things belong in a museum?
Yeah, I am. And specifically a museum in their own country,
Yep.
not one in cough, cough, England.
Right.
I want to touch on the treatment of the museum or the art pieces and antiquities later down, but we'll get into that.
Oh, I have so many notes how she walks from an office building into low-key the set of The Mummy.
Yep.
Like-
I know. It's great.
Great.
I was like, did we walk into the Da Vinci Code? But I have a question, or maybe just an observation.
Okay.
When I was a kid and I watched this, I was like, oh, I get Tia Carrera is just like also evil. And,
Sure.
you know, she's doing it for evil purposes. I never really paid attention to the fact that she's actually just doing it for money.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I have a lot of questions as to why she's even around at the end of this movie. Like, once I deliver the nukes, I'm driving away with my millions or whatever.
Yeah.
But also what she put up with, like,
Oh, yes.
I do feel like the character was a little thin because they should have had her more invested other than like fiscally,
Yes.
you know, because there's like, yeah, stuff happens later where you're like, why would you be sticking around for this, Tia Carrere,
Yeah.
Juno Skinner?
I mean, well, we'll talk about it more when we get to
Yeah,
it.
we can table it.
Yeah. Anyway, this is where he is getting, transmissions from the van, and the van takes off. They're like, we're going to drive to the next rendezvous point, meet us there, basically, because everyone's going crazy. The guards are all looking for people, and he's like, hey, would you like to tango? So they're on the dance floor, and people can't necessarily immediately see it's him. And as they leave the dance floor, she's like, I've got an office in Rome. Here's my card. He's like, cool, we'll catch up later.
Wait till you guys see that office in DC, not Rome, I guess is my point. Like, she sets up this great office in Rome and then we never go there.
Not only do we never go there, the movie is set in DC multiple times. They're like, here in DC, walk through a very notable Los Angeles landmark. And it's hysterical. They show no DC landmarks, by the way.
They show a few.
There's like establishing shots that's clearly like whatever the equivalent of stock footage is from the day.
Yep. And it's just like, oh, the Pentagon for like 2 seconds. Anyway, he's like, I'm just going to walk out the front gate. And a guy, predictably in a German accent, is like, can I see your papers, sir? And then he detonates the C4 and uses that as cover to run away, shooting back at people because immediately everyone mobilizes on like skis and like snowcats
Snowmobiles,
and everything.
it's awesome. Like,
Snowmobiles.
yeah.
So kick ass. They have a fucking army of snow soldiers
Yes.
just ready to go.
Snolgers. Yeah.
But then they send the dogs after him, and he like waits till they both jump and then karate chops the dogs' heads together. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Arr!" But then they're clearly okay because they were like, well, we didn't want to show him hurting the dogs. So it's kind of a hilarious visual. And then he's like, okay, doggy. And then just like keeps going.
Down or whatever. He's a down boy or something.
Yeah, he says down boy.
Stay.
It's pretty funny though, because you see the dogs running and jumping, and then it cuts to Arnold Schwarzenegger and someone just shoving two big stuffed animal dogs in his face and him karate chopping the heads together. It's pretty silly. And I think that there's some very funny comedic and silly elements to this movie that makes like the outlandish action also land for me.
Yes.
Because it feels sort of like a heightened reality, and I'm just here for like the weird. Like, there's no way she would have been able to hold on to the plane at the end, right? Like, that's insane.
No.
But loved it.
Yeah.
Don't change a thing, Cameron.
It's Bond rules, and it's like
Exactly.
He's like dropping one-liners left and right, and it's fucking awesome. Like
You know who stole this one-liner shortly after this movie came out, though?
oh god, who?
Donald Trump.
Trump? What?
You're fired.
Oh. Boo.
I didn't do it.
Because he does say that when he detonates the explosion.
Well, he says that when he shoots the guy on the missile, the very end.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes, you're fine. I will say, I thought that it was wild that you have an entire snow army. The dogs are coming. We pause. Like, no one shoots at him long enough to karate chop the dogs. And all I could think of in my mind was, this is his hard target punching the snake.
Yeah.
Like, it was that level of crazy.
Yeah.
And then he, on foot, runs away. He must have been shot at 200 times. Doesn't even get clipped. No bulletproof vest, nothing. And the van left a while ago. And he just runs down this hill and catches them at the perfect time on the road.
Well, they're like going down the road, right? And he's running straight down it.
Even that part is harrowing because they're going down this ice road, twisting and turning, and Tom Arnold's like, oh boy, and it's like everything about it. James Cameron just has a way with action where it's all so fun and dynamic. And like even I think when they pull up in the van, they like skid in.
They do. They almost hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those parts that make it more believable, despite the wacky, outlandish dialogue.
Despite the people following the van on skis with Uzis.
Yeah.
Which obviously, it must be so hard to shoot like that because no one's getting anywhere close.
Yeah, no fucking wonder he never gets hit.
I know.
Future Olympians just like...
Seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger like running down the hill and trying to like reload as like this. I mean, it probably wasn't him. It was probably a stunt double, honestly, but still like a man of that size trying to do that is so funny to watch.
1,000% a stunt double because even on the DVD, not the restored Blu-ray version, which I think they used AI for and it kind of sucks.
Boo.
There's very clearly a stunt double, but dude, the stunts, like, doesn't he at one point slide down a hill on his back?
Yes.
Yes.
Because he's a fucking bobsled of a man. I think my favorite part of the chase too is when they pick him up and he says, hey, lean back. And then he shoots a dude through the window, blowing out Tom Arnold's fucking eardrums.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, God damn it.
Tom Arnold has tinnitus from this point for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he'd be fucked.
More deaf than me right now, like super deaf. But also, the guys that he shoots are the two dudes on skis with Uzis, and they can't stay upright. Like they're they look like they're trying to ski the K-12. They're just all over the place, and he clips both of them, and it's amazing.
It's so rad.
Should have given John Cusack an Uzi
Oh,
to ski the
there you
K-12.
go.
He definitely would have won.
On one ski.
With an Uzi. Sorry.
Anyway, he gets in the van. He's like, we could still make our flight, which is hysterical to me that you would even worry about making your flight because there's no way they're flying commercial.
Absolutely not. They have their own fucking C-37 government plane or whatever the fuck.
Got some sort of invisible jet waiting. Like, yeah. Oh, we got to get there in time for security and take our shoes off and everything.
Yeah.
Guys, remember to check in. Your boarding pass is dependent upon when you check in.
Right.
They took Southwest to fucking Switzerland.
Nope. No, especially when you see their headquarters, that is such a weird thing that they added that I'm thinking about. I'm like, why did they say that we would make their plane? They're not going to go to the airport with guns and military grade spy tech.
But then even funnier, in the very next scene, also, it's an American Econoline van in Switzerland. It's the same van every time. But I was like, either they flew that van over or they just have one there.
Yeah.
And so I assume they're in some sort of big cargo plane where they just like, Fast and the Furious style, drive that van up into the plane and they just fly it back and forth, I guess.
Man, the way that it cuts, it does seem like they drove the van from Switzerland
From Switzerland
to the
home?
DC. Yeah.
But then once they get to DC, he's like, here, I'm going to take your fake passport for Rehnquist and here's your old passport for, and I was like, you wouldn't need them. There's no way you flew through an airport.
Yeah.
Like, passport for what?
I do like that moment though, where it's him taking care of him because he's like, all right, he's like his handler.
Yeah.
He's going through and it's just like, and
Got
here's
the snow globe.
Yeah, and for Dana, and here's your wedding ring and all this shit. Like, it's like that would happen in a spy world, and it's so rad. It just, God, this movie fucking rocks.
It also does a really good job of establishing for the viewer his cover story, right? Like,
Yes.
we don't know anything about this spy's family life, and now we're learning because of Tom Arnold's sort of exposition here that he is a family man, even though if he's not that present. I mean, he forgets his wedding ring. Like, I think they do all this on purpose, right?
He's a deadbeat fucking dad is what he is.
Yeah,
He's like,
more
he
or
is the
less.
worst father in America. Even though he's out saving the world, he can't save his marriage.
Yep.
I do sort of like that Tom Arnold does sort of call him on that right when he learns that she was, quote, cheating on him, right?
Yes.
He's like,
Yeah.
he does try and like empathize with him. In fact, I love the way he reacts to it. But like, he does sort of call him on not being present, which I was like, wow, 94? Really? Nice.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway, so he gets home. Everyone's asleep. He does tell Tom Arnold to pick him up at 8 because the debriefing is at 10. We get up the next morning and he does like snuggle with Jamie Lee Curtis a little bit. But the next morning, Tom Arnold shows up. He sets his coat on the chair in the living room and then sets up a pack of cigarettes that we will find out is a camera. And then he goes in to talk to Arnold Schwarzenegger as his daughter, Dana, who immediately threw that snow globe out, is headed off to school with some ruffian on a motorcycle. The amount that they don't know where Dana is throughout most of this movie is madness.
Yeah.
The 90s were truly wild.
Paige, they have their own life to live. She's like 14 or 15. It's fine. She's doing
It's fine. Just put her on the back of that motorcycle with, maybe a helmet or whatever.
She's hanging out with like an Edward Furlong type. It's fine. We'll be good.
I mean, yeah, this movie is just taking place alongside T2 in a different part of town.
Yeah, there you go. LA and all, not even DC.
Not even DC. So she's out, but before she leaves, she takes some money out of Tom Arnold's jacket. And this scene from a screenwriting perspective is purely there so that we see how the glasses work for later. That's literally it.
I love it though. I remember watching this as a kid and thinking like, oh my God, this technology is insane. And I mean like, that's crazy to think now, but like I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the glasses thing that it establishes, but also from like a character perspective, it shows that Dana is just so loose and wild because of the lack of father, presence and stuff like that.
Or even just a solid family like structure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like with two parents.
Yeah. But also, as he's leaving, Jamie Lee Curtis asks about the convention, and he's like, it was great, computers. But then what he goes on to describe is a CRM.
Paige, I wrote this down too. I was like,
Were you
94 and they're talking about CRMs? Like, that's actually pretty early in the world.
I didn't sign up to fucking work during this podcast. Damn it.
I know. So, like, Blaine, Paige and I both work in the software biz. So,
You know what? I was going to say that never stood out to me because I think that they nailed just the fucking gobbledygook that you would hear from some blue collar dude who works in tech. Like,
Yeah.
it's just nonsense. It's just word salad.
Yeah, it is complete word salad, except it is all accurate and means something, and he is actually describing a real thing, and that was very wild. Yeah,
I mean, that's cool though. That means his cover story is like good. That's great.
his cover story is legit. It's almost like he's oversharing to like make sure that people know.
I mean, he is. She is like so bought in on his ruse because like he gives levels of details about it that like bore her.
Yeah.
She mentions it later. Like he's very convincing. Like I think in his relationship, he's a way better actor than he is in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does two things. One, that he's a great spy, knows his cover story well, but two, he's training his wife to just not ask about his work because it's so fucking boring.
Yeah.
It's like she'll want to talk about anything else but what's going on in his work life because it's just bore him to death.
Yeah.
They even mention that later. If I want to go to sleep, I ask him about what happened.
Exactly.
Well, and we also kind of set up in this scene that he is not paying attention to anything in her life because she's like, oh yeah, the plumber needs to go under the slab. It's going to be this amount. And he's like, okay, fine. Because dude probably has endless amounts of, like, it's not a big deal. And she's like, no, that's a crazy amount. And he's like, oh, well, okay. So tell him it's crazy. And she's like, yeah, you said it'll take $100 off if I sleep with him. And he's like, sounds good. Good thinking. Bye. And she's just like, that's it.
You think that was actually him just not listening? Or do you think that was him just being like, haha, like secure in his relationship?
I think that that's played like he wasn't even paying attention to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way it plays to me.
Okay.
I would say that that's a joke that my husband and I would make with each other all the time, and it's secure in relationship, and we would both laugh about it.
Yeah.
You would be requesting payment in bacons.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on whether or not that would be like, if they had that tit for tat, or I guess it does make sense that it's
I think by the end of the movie they would.
yeah.
I think they definitely would, though, especially in the 1 year later portion of the movie, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, it is like $600.94, which is like $1,300 today. It's like close to that.
Yeah.
So like maybe he was like, yes, please do, because spy-in don't pay very well.
Yeah, it's true.
They don't let you keep all the money you find.
The one time we see him try and rent a hotel room for his wife, he has to use the company account. He can't afford
That
it.
is true.
She has to work too. Like, no, he doesn't make enough money for all he does, guys. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, so as they're leaving, Tom Arnold is like, check out these cool camera glasses. Your kid has been stealing from me. You owe me $200. And he's like, all right.
I like how in the next scene when they're talking about it, he's like, man, I thought it was my ex-wife's new boyfriend who was ripping me off or whatever.
Right.
I love like what's going on in Tom Arnold's worlds that we never see on the screen.
Trying to assemble what the hell is happening in Tom Arnold's life is like a movie on its own.
Exactly.
I have fun facts about that.
Ooh.
Hell yes.
We'll get to it in fun facts.
None of that was scripted. He was just talking behind the scenes with Arnold and they just left it in the movie.
Oh,
Paige,
no.
your face is
Paige.
concerning me. What is that?
Wow.
Was he really on his third marriage? Like at that point, and he was living with, hang on, what?
All
Hang on.
right. So I'll blow a fun fact. So when he's talking about, especially once he finds out about the affair, he's like, all of my multiple people I've been married to or whatever, he says that my last wife, my second wife, took everything from me, even the ice cube trays from the freezer.
What kind of sick bitch takes the ice cube trays?
Trays
That's one of
from
the
the freezer.
things that my brother and I will say to each other, like no context, and we both know what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those lines.
The reason that is in this movie is because while they were filming this movie, Tom Arnold was mid-contentious, violent divorce from
my
Roseanne Barr. And she was reported to have taken the ice cube trays when she left as well, specifically because she knew he would hate it. And he told James Cameron the story, and they put it in the movie.
Use that, James said.
That's amazing. He actually is leaning into Arnold Schwarzenegger's face when he's saying that in a way that's like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about.
This acting's coming from a place of truth and
Yeah, this is very genuine. I mean, maybe that's why I think this is the best I've ever seen him act.
yeah, because he's not acting.
He's largely just not acting at all.
Not acting. But we cut to their debrief where we find out that the leader of their team is Carlton Heston, who's only in 2 scenes of this movie.
Charlton Heston fucking with an eye patch too? Hell yeah.
Like, he looks like Nick Fury.
Did anyone else want like a prequel with Charlton Heston, a young version of him, and like how he built Omega Sector and how he lost his eye and all that shit? Like, I need that True Lies prequel where he's the main character.
I think it is Captain Marvel. I think it's that movie, basically, where it's like in the 80s with like a team of lady pilots that fight aliens, and he loses his eye and is like, all right, now we're building helipads. Like, I think it's that, maybe.
We'll never know because we never got it.
That's like a cool thing that it was a detail that I didn't appreciate at the time because I was a kid, but then now knowing who Charlton Heston is like,
Right.
that's a sick fucking casting call.
Yeah.
Like that's
Like cameo.
so cool. Yeah, it is his cameo.
And he was definitely only on set one day. In this scene specifically, he's reading his lines off the paper he's holding. It's clear, but he isn't phoning it in necessarily. Like he knows what he's there to do and he's doing
Yeah.
it.
No, he's perfectly playing the part of like in every Bond movie, every like, 60s to 80s secret agent movie, he's the guy that's like, your mission, should you exactly that guy, and it's perfect.
Yep.
But this is where they go through who all of the players in the vague terrorism plot line in this movie are. Because spoiler, they do not get very specific until the last 45 minutes of this film. But in this first hour, they're just like, here's a bunch of people and a bunch of names. You will forget an hour from now when they become very important.
Yep.
Well, because we do leave this subplot for an entire plot to play out in the middle of this movie, and then we get back to this plot.
Right. Because they essentially find out, they're like, here are all the players. There's, Khalid, who's like funding it. There's Tia Carrere, who is involved somehow, and they're not sure how yet. And then somehow this other faction called the Crimson Jihad is also embroiled in this somehow. And also there are nukes missing from an unrelated third party, but they think it might actually be related. That's all the information we have at this point.
But those are Chekhov's nukes. Y'all know it. Like, it's, from the beginning of the movie sort of where it's going to end. Although I do think it's ballsy that they actually detonate one of the nukes on Key West. Like, that's cool.
I have so many thoughts about that whole nuke scene, but yeah.
I mean, you think it would have risen Godzilla from the deep? Same.
100%. This was the crossover,
Are you guys trying to tell me that we should do it? Because now I'm on board for it.
Well, I'm saying that this is how we get the American Godzilla versus Kong movies versus the Japanese Toro Godzilla movies and, or Toho Godzilla movies. Anyway, we cut to him showing up to Tia Carrere's office because he's got to now check her out a little closer because she might be involved. And she goes through what looks like a normal office with a shocking amount of ancient statues. To come with me, come see what we've got, into full-on Hamunaptera, just walks onto the set of The Mummy.
It's great, though.
In Washington, D.C., too.
In Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have a lot of museums in Washington, D.C., guys. Like, all the Smithsonians are there. Like, there's a lot of that kind of shit there. But, this is positioned like it's just an office, and that's wild.
Yeah.
Like, she's just sitting on millions in artifacts at her office.
It's also positioned like they airlifted an entire temple, and they're still excavating it in the office.
Is that not how you do it, Paige? You don't move entire sites? Yeah, no, that was insane. I didn't even think about that as a child. But you're absolutely right. That's nuts.
Wow. Yeah, they were dusting it off and shit like they had just discovered this.
Right. They're doing archaeology in the office.
Guys, these are some real fresh artifacts, so we still got to brush them off, guys.
And they're not, I guess I would understand if they were opening crates or something, but no, it's all out and it's positioned the way you would do a temple where it's big old columns, big statues all arranged in a temple formation. And she's just anything you see. And they're just chiseling away at some of the statues. And I'm what is this?
They cut from the office to that location too, because it's very clearly two distinct places, right?
Yeah.
So in the story, it is not two distinct places. It's just the same office.
Right.
But yes, set-wise, it absolutely is.
Yeah, it's a whole different set. It's got to be.
You watch them walk from door to door. They walk through a doorway into this place.
Yeah. That rules.
I guess she's working for Hobby Lobby or something, just smuggling artifacts.
The Hobby Lobby's Kalima section.
I mean, you laugh, but
no.
they'd be doing it.
There's no way they'd have a Kalima section. They don't even let their...
Do you not know about this?
Is this your first time hearing about the Hobby Lobby stuff?
What Hobby Lobby stuff?
That Hobby Lobby has been illegally smuggling artifacts from the Fertile Crescent for 15 years.
Yeah.
Legitimately, this is a real thing. Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
You can buy shit in their store too, I think. Old antiquities.
I mean, I don't think they ever sold them online, but they were stealing things that they found to be biblically significant, regardless of the country of origin.
That's why I was going to say it doesn't surprise me. People who live in the South know Hobby Lobby are owned by some pretty religious people.
Yeah. And that's why they've been doing it. But they were refusing to repatriate the artifacts and they were smuggling them out illegally.
Of course. They think they're theirs by divine right, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, is that real? Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then laundering money to hide it. So it was a huge thing.
There's nothing quite as astonishing as my religion says it's mine, so it's mine.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Manifest Destiny or whatever the fuck.
It's a version of it, yeah. I do want to point out that in the scene where we're learning about Tia Carrera's sort of, part of the part she plays, we find out that she's an importer of antiquities, right? We don't really know what she's doing with the terrorist organization, but as they're walking onto the set, we see him bumping into and getting eyeballed by all of the henchmen that he's about to kill over the course of this movie. And I think that that's a really cool sort of unique shot in a movie that I can you think of another movie that does that?
Setting up beef,
Oh, we don't even have that beef because in the elevator that Paige talked about earlier, when he's in there with the motorcycle and then Arnold's in there with the horse, they have a real real like will they, won't they, but like for
Yeah.
who's going to kill the other one sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And at that moment, the movie like is asking the question of like which one of these two men will survive, because like the movie won't end with both of them alive, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the way they amp that up. Like it's really masterfully done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We cut back to the hotel suite that they're using to essentially listen in on everything in Tia Carrere's office. And so we kind of overhear, or rather they start to overhear. We see it on screen as the audience. The henchman guy that was like shoulder checking Arnold earlier comes in and just full on open hand slaps her and is like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, well, you're paying me a lot of money. He's like, yeah, I know. And slaps her again and is like, I don't tolerate mistakes. And you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Did you guys catch how much she was doing it for?
No.
$2 million. And if you adjust for inflation, that's like $4.2 million in today's money. Would you smuggle nukes into the United States for the purpose of like whatever the fuck is happening in this movie?
Absolutely
for
not.
$4.2 million?
No.
That is an insane. That's like a Dr. Evil amount of money, like on the low scale when he was like $1 million. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, $10,000. Yeah.
All I'm saying is I wish that in this movie and in the Wayne's World movies that Tia Carrere knew her worth. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 4 million's not enough.
It's not.
Because that only ends one of 3 ways, right? 1, you die horribly, either at the hand of some sort of SEAL team 1 through 6 scenario.
How many dudes there are up for question?
Yeah.
Up for question.
Yeah.
Or you end up in Guantanamo Bay. Or you have to live somewhere not the United States for pretty much the rest of your life as a whole new, different person. And I don't think $4 million is enough money for that.
I don't think so either.
It is not, Paige. It is not. I mean, there's no amount of money that would allow me to do that, but like I thought it was a ghastly small amount. It's crazy.
That is a crazy. I didn't even think about how small of an amount that.
He's like, we're not paying you $25 to sneak in these nukes. Like it's just such an insanely low amount, guys.
It's like if a Burger King manager slapped the piss out of one of his cashiers and like, we're not paying you $1 above minimum wage to fuck up this order.
Don't make me ask you twice. I won't be so nice.
I can have it my way.
It was a pretty good way of saying, okay, this is the bad guy. He's a woman beater.
Right.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's awful. He's both underpaying her and overslapping her, and it is not good. It's bad.
He also looks a lot like if the ancient aliens guys was like Middle Eastern.
Well, my favorite is that when they show his, like, I guess headshot's the wrong mugshot. Later, it's full on like a Jason Mantzoukas clone. And I was just like, oh my God, if they made this today, it's Jason Mantzoukas.
That's really funny.
I do feel like Jason Mantzoukas could crush it because that dude's insane. But with the full beard, I could see it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Also, similarly, the Ancient Aliens guy that you were referring to from the History Channel that he does kind of look like.
Thank you.
Georgios Tsoukalos is also Greek. So I think maybe
Exactly, yeah.
this movie just doesn't know.
It's like a thing. Well, I think that I think that like Americans are dumb.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
you know.
They're like, he seems like he knows about artifacts.
Yeah.
He's always pointing at them and going, could there have been beings that came from the sky as the hieroglyphs indicate? Yeah, I could see where they might think he's in the arts trade.
Listen, this is what, 6 years after Rambo 3, where they said this film is dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan.
Oh, God.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of my favorite details of Rambo.
That's amazing.
I'm sorry, no, I think there was another version that says the film is dedicated to the gallant people of Afghanistan.
Oh, where they changed it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Anyways, Americans didn't know much about the Middle East.
Americans knew nothing.
I don't think we knew it was a place people lived at this time. We were just like,
In 94? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
94, yeah.
In 94, we were at war over there, right?
Oh, we've been at war there basically since 1989. Basically, we've been at war in the Middle East for most of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Russia first and it bankrupted them.
Yeah.
And now it's our turn, apparently.
Anyway, so she be slapping. But then we cut to Jamie Lee Curtis, because now this is the act break, essentially, or at least we're teeing up act 2, because Jamie Lee Curtis calls in and they're like, oh, he's in a meeting. And she's like, okay, well, can you patch him through? They patch him through. And she's like, I just want to make sure you're going to be home because we're throwing you a birthday party. And like, we went to all this trouble. He's like, I will totally be home.
We spared no expense.
We're
making you a cake.
Chilean sea bass.
It is kind of sweet, honestly.
It's very sweet.
Yeah.
And he's like, great, cool. And they're heading home. As they're heading home, they're being followed. And they're like, well, should we try to lose him? He's like, no, let's figure out why they're following us. And so they pull over at the mall and they call one of the other cars for backup to kind of come around. And he takes out the cigarette case camera and he's using it to like spot them from behind. We realize that it's 3 of the henchmen from Tia Carrere's office, and 2 of them get out to follow him on foot. The other one stays in the car.
Yeah.
What then ensues is basically the section from Mission Impossible 6 where Henry Cavill beats the shit out of Tom Cruise. No, not Tom Cruise. Well, Henry Cavill and Tom Cruise beat the shit out of that other guy in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's basically that scene, but with more guns and a guy taking a shit who survived. Because the 2 guys on feet follow Arnold Schwarzenegger into the bathroom. They shoot every surface in that bathroom.
Yeah.
Every single stall has a bullet hole in it. Free glory holes, you're welcome.
I mean, it looks like Oscar Pistorius' bathroom by the end of it.
It's just every door is blown through.
Exactly.
And so as that's happening, it seems like Arnold has subdued the 2. But at that point, Tom Arnold's like, I lost sight of the 3rd guy. And he's got a shotgun. He comes into the bathroom. Now it's him versus Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, and this is the main bad guy, right? Like from here
This
on,
is the bad guy.
Yeah.
for like the rest of this action sequence, which is like 20 minutes. It's a long one.
Yeah.
Like it's really just him trying to get the main ancient aliens terrorist, right?
Right,
Like he's
right.
trying to get him to the Greek or whatever. Get that Greek.
Yes.
Because he's Greek.
He's like, the Anunnaki told me that they came down from on high and that you have to be the terror. Anyway.
I'm just seeing the meme, but it's like, instead of aliens, it says terrorists.
Terrorist. He runs through another store out into an open courtyard where he just fires a semi-auto wildly.
Yep.
Doesn't aim it.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, a mass shooting event? Because that's what just happened in this movie.
They're playing it for comic relief because Tom Arnold's out of the van and he's like hides behind a pole, and Tom Arnold's kind of bigger, right? So like he sticks out from the either side of that pole, but he's like shooting wildly into people, and it's giving us this like comedic view of that.
Oh,
because
God.
all we're seeing is Tom Arnold not being hit by bullets.
Right.
Well, and patting himself down.
And he's like, oh my God, okay, I'm good. Yeah, and then he gives him that comedic moment of like, oh, I'm safe. But it doesn't show the people that are laying. You can see them. They're laying on the ground behind him, presumably shot, I would imagine.
Holy shit.
Okay. So there's a couple on the ground. There's a few on the ground behind him. Yes. But then the rest of the people, because he fires into the crowd.
I know.
Into the crowd.
Wildly.
They all duck like it's a loud noise, like a firework or something. And then as he runs, they go, anyway. And they just go back to being extras as if they have...
Rutabaga rhubarb.
as if they have not experienced quite literally probably the most traumatic thing in their entire lives.
Yeah, or another Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah, you know.
I do love my dad and I remember laughing our asses off every time he shot at Tom Arnold, and then he checks his dick to make sure it's still there, and then he kisses the pole.
Yeah.
Like perfection. That is the funniest shit ever.
It is so funny as long as you're not thinking about the people that are dead behind him.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's a ton of bullet holes in the pole, so you're like, the dude fired it. He would have hit people. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he runs off. He commandeers a motorcycle. Arnold Schwarzenegger commandeers a police horse.
Okay, hang on though, because they both snatch people off of their vehicles, right? Because like the terrorist snatches a guy off a motorcycle, but then Arnold Schwarzenegger does that to a cop on a horse?
Yes, he does. He's like, I'm a federal agent in pursuit.
He's like, federal agent from what country? Like, he doesn't show him a badge and he sounds Austrian. Like, I'm not going to give you my horse.
He does show him a badge. That's what's the funniest part. He's got a badge, but like not long enough for the guy to read it or be like whatever. Also, in the very beginning, like when they do the debrief, we find out that this is like Omega Force, which is like one rung like it's like America's last resort.
Top secret.
It's like top secret. And so he'd walk up. It's like walking up to somebody and being like, I'm from the Space Force and I'm going to need to commandeer this Lime scooter. Like that's a crazy thing to say.
Ma'am, that badge said sheriff of Party City. I'm not giving you my horse.
I'm here to bring the mirth. No, he just drags the guy off the horse. And then he immediately hops up onto the horse, which also, I don't know how much you guys have ridden horses. Horses have like a weight limit and like a distance limit based on that weight limit. Like they get tired. They're they're an animal.
Yeah.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger is 6'2", meat mountain. That guy's probably 250, almost 3 bills, like on this horse.
Oh, Paige, how big was that elevator? Because he's tall and the horse is probably 6 feet tall.
I never considered that.
That is the elevator from the Haunted Mansion, and you know it.
It has to be, right? That elevator is 12 feet tall, and I still will account for him ducking down, because he is ducking down some, but he's on a horse and he's huge, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even if you cut his height in, let's call it 3.5 feet above the horse.
Exactly.
But how many hands tall is that horse? Like, it's a big horse because it has to carry that big man. There's no way. There's no way.
Wait, but also there's 2 other people plus Arnold and a horse. There's
And a
no way
horse.
the weight capacity on that elevator wasn't completely busted.
Yes, because horses weigh a lot. Like, I mean, but here's the other thing. We watched it, and unless they built their own elevator, like, they shot it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Like, it had to have happened somewhere.
A horse could be between 900 to 1,200 pounds, and Arnold's like probably conservatively 230 in this movie. And then there's a couple in there. The guy wasn't too big, but he was still large. I mean, we're talking like there might have been like 1,800 pounds in that elevator, maybe 2,000. Would have been a ton.
What are elevators rated for?
Weight capacity of mall elevator between 2,100 and 5,000 pounds. Okay.
So it would barely handle it if it was at that 2,100 range.
Yeah, but this is 90s though, so I don't know. I think the elevator technology has improved.
I mean, either way, they did shoot it. Like, they may have had to like reinforce that specific elevator, but like they did shoot it there.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
Dude, that is wild. To be those 2 actors that are in there, they must have been the horse's trainer. I'm taking a guess here because
Yeah, it's gotta
there's
be.
no way that horse wasn't freaking out and they were going to endanger 2 random extras. Because if that thing had started kicking and freaking out, holy shit.
Yeah.
That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if they actually filmed it somewhere. And okay, here we go. The horse in a hotel scene was filmed in the lobby and elevators of the Westin Bonaventure Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. So those are real elevators, and there's a horse in an elevator.
That's awesome.
Oh, apparently if you go to that elevator, it's still around and it says, this is one of 2 elevators in filming True Lies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, September 1993. They have a little plaque in the elevator. Isn't that cute?
That's
That is
cool.
fun.
A horse shit right where you're standing.
Yeah, probably, right?
And it tried to pretend like it wasn't it because it was in an elevator. It was
It
like,
was
I
in
don't
an
know.
elevator.
It was like, oh, my trainer did that.
It was the old lady.
Yeah, I don't know. The turd fell right out from under her skirt. I didn't see it. I don't even know.
I don't know.
It wasn't my turd.
I don't know. If you didn't want the turd horse, you shouldn't have hired Dr. Plop. But so as you know, we've been talking about the elevator. They race through the lobby of this hotel up into the elevator. The motorcycle goes in one elevator. Hilarious to begin with. And then you're watching it and you're like, they're not going to put the horse in that elevator. And then he walks the horse into that fucking elevator and they go to the top. And now they're on the roof. And the guy like arcs, like Evel Knievels his motorcycle into the pool at the next building over.
Yeah.
It is insanity that you think that he could do that.
Shit rocks.
Well, here's what I will say.
It's 4 lanes, Paige. It's 4 lanes. And sidewalks?
It's probably not. And the only reason I say that.
No, they show it. They show it. It's 4 lanes.
I realize that that's what they made it look like, but knowing where they shot this.
Oh, I don't care about that. I'm talking about in the movie. Like, there's no way you could actually
Sure.
do that in the movie.
You're right. As shown in the movie, probably not. Probably don't try it. And also, he climbs out of that pool that he drove the motorcycle into, and he's just like wet, and he's like, ugh, like he's gonna walk it off. And I'm like, I'm sorry, a whole party of people just saw you arc a motorcycle from another skyscraper into the pool in this building. The cops were called the second the motorcycle hit the air.
Oh, they've been shooting the place across the street for 10 minutes, Paige. The cops are there.
If you think they're not already running up the stairs stairs. Like, there's no way this guy escaped.
Sir, another motorcycle has landed onto the rooftop pool.
But of course, the horse is smart and not going to try and make that jump off the product placement Marriott sign. And so he stops short, which flings Arnold Schwarzenegger off, and he hangs off the edge, and then the horse has to walk backwards to drag him back up onto the roof. But then he's like, what kind of police horse are you?
It's great. It's great. It's a funny bit.
I do love that no matter the badge, Arnold Schwarzenegger respects that thing as a cop.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a horse cop, you're a dog cop, or you're a human cop. You're a cop first, Paige.
Sorry, I just picture that horse at the academy.
Yeah.
Like graduating with the rest of its class, where it's just
Guys, when Mahoney got him to put up the binoculars and he had the circles around his eyes for like a week, that shit was hilarious.
just like a bunch of dudes like saluting, like they're at the police academy, and then there's just a horse in like full dress blues. Hysterical. He just Mirandizes people by counting with a hoof. Anyway, so we cut to Arnold Schwarzenegger goes back home. Jamie Lee Curtis is asleep at the table. His birthday cake is still there. And she's just like, hey, yeah, bummer you couldn't be here. And he's like, I'm sorry, whatever. We cut to the next day. This is where we see he's like identifying from a photo array. And it's fully 1994's Jason Mantzoukas. Or no, it's whoever the guy is, but it looks like Jason Mantzoukas. And he's like, that's the guy. And they're like, Salim Abdulaziz, a name that they will never use again.
Nope.
You will never remember it because from this point in the movie on, it's a full hour before that guy comes back.
Well, we get a whole subplot about adultery, Paige, and it's great.
Yeah.
But somewhere in North Carolina, the Ansari parents were like, that guy's last name's a pretty fire first name.
Pretty fire first name. But so he's like, hey, this dude's done car bombings. He hijacked a 727. And he did like some huge, like he detonated, not a nuke, but like something, a missile thing. Like they're listing it off. And I was like, how is this person not Dr. Evil? Like the most feared guy in the world. And they're
How
like,
is he in Washington, D.C. of all places too?
Right.
Like not getting caught in security checkpoints left and right because he shaved his beard?
right. And they're like, yeah, so his, new terrorist sect, they're gaining in prominence. I was like, gaining? They already took a plane. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, they call him the Sand Spider. And Carlton Heston's like, why do you think they do that? And he's like, probably because it sounds scary. And I was like, yeah, I guess.
Great answer.
Sure.
Why do they call him that?
La Rania Discoteca.
That's funny.
But so they're like, great. Now we know who that guy is. If you could just run me by my wife's work to see if I can catch her at lunch, we could wrap that up and get back to hunting these terrorists. But they show up at her office and he overhears her and a coworker talking about her taking a phone call from a mystery man. And it seems like she is about to leave for lunch to go have an illicit affair.
I mean, that's the way it's played up pretty heavily because the coworker's even like, get a little for me too.
Yeah.
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 And then one of my favorite shots in this movie, because it's insane, Arnold Schwarzenegger walks out into the crosswalk without paying attention and he's just devastated and he almost gets hit by like a literal bus because emotionally he's also been hit by a bus.
Yeah.
I love that like imagery after that happened, but also the bus like gets closer. It's like, move, come on, move out of my way. I'm a bus, I gotta go. And like it keeps getting closer.
He's like not phased by it though.
Not
It's
at
so
all.
great. It's great performance,
It
great
is.
trust in the stuntman. But I also love that Tom Arnold's like, come on, get the fuck out of here. Like he's like
Yeah.
yelling at them.
And then when he reveals what happens, Tom Arnold's like, welcome to the club, man. This is great.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But he also does sort of call him on it after like, talking about how they're going to kill the guy or whatever machismo shit they do in that scene. He also is like, how could she do this to me? And Tom Arnold more or less is like, well, you're never around and, you don't really spend time with your wife. So like, I get it, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where he does have the line of women can't live with him, can't kill him. And you're like, oh no. Oh.
This is also a line I remembered from this movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But he goes home and they're all having dinner and he's like, hey, I came by for lunch and you weren't there. And she's like, oh yeah, I had to rush papers across town. The printer wasn't there. It was like a whole thing. And he's like, oh, it sounds like an exciting day. And she's like, yeah, sure. We cut to the next day. He's like stewing at like the CIA headquarters or whatever, where they've got a whole room of people wiretapping with like computers from the 1970s. And they're like, yeah, we put wiretaps on this guy and this terrorist and this lady. And he's like, put a wiretap on my wife. And they're like, what? No, that's a felony. Wink, wink.
Well, and he even grabs him and goes, we're doing it 20 times a day. And I was like, man, that's gone
Yeah.
up a lot since then.
Yeah.
The inflation on warrantless wiretaps went up a lot after 9/11, guys.
A whole lot after the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Here's one of those like Armando and I joke because of the things that we Google for cult podcast a lot that we're both on lists. But every once in a while something happens and I'm like, are they watching us?
You hear like a little clicking on a phone call or something like that.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Paige, if I can retarget you based on shit you do on Instagram, then yes, the
Fair.
government is listening to you all the time, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I do want to say the moment where he calls out, like, I came by your office and you weren't there, has one of my favorite shots. And it's just this dolly in on Arnold's like face, just like staring at her.
Yes.
It's a pretty badass shot. I'm pretty sure they used it in the trailer too.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did as well. Yeah, it's great.
But the context is almost like, am I going to shoot her for lying? Like, that's what it looks like.
I just think it's like, I know better.
Yeah.
You know, like he knows, like I'm on to you, like that kind of look.
Yeah.
It read as a spy detecting lies and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. He's going to press X to detect a lie. He's like, doubt.
We cut to him reading a dot matrix printer transcript from the wiretap typed out like a screenplay.
It literally is.
That's hilarious.
Which had to have been done by somebody listening and doing it manually, right? Like now they would have an AI do that. But it was so funny that like all you would have to do is add like interior office phone call. She talks to Simon. Simon, I have to see you. Her, I have to see. Like it literally, and it's in Courier New. Like it's in screenplay font.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. Very funny. But we get cut-ins of these calls, which is how we find out that it's Bill Paxton with the most unfortunate mustache on earth.
How dare you? Bill Paxton's never looked so good.
No.
This is, I think, one of my favorite performances from Bill Paxton.
I do love it.
And I think Aliens. I think maybe I like Bill Paxton the most when he is like just being the most silly and goofy on screen.
Oh, he's
Sure.
just chewing the scenery.
Yeah, I think one of his
Yes.
superpowers was that he was super comfortable looking a fool on screen.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it.
I think it's also because him and James Cameron have this like history with each other. I mean, he's in like basically all of the Cameron films.
Yeah, almost every Cameron film.
Yeah. So I think that there's also something to be said about an actor being completely comfortable with the director and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's such a dream team. And Schwarzenegger too. Cameron and Schwarzenegger, like,
Yeah.
some of their best movies are with each other because they're just like such a great duo.
Yeah.
They are. I love Bill Paxton in Aliens. He's great. I love him in this. Character-wise, I think this is my favorite because he is so funny.
He is very funny. Yeah.
I would say attractiveness is Twister.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton and Twister can get it.
Yeah, for sure.
I like the way that man fights the wind, Paige.
Me too. I gotta see the new one. I've been too sick for too long.
With Glenn Hadley or whatever his name is.
Oh, Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell.
That's it. Powell. There you
Glenn
go.
Powell.
Yeah.
If you can feel it, chase it.
I saw someone call him the Morgan Wallen of Storm Chasers in that movie, and it made me laugh. Although I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I still don't know who Morgan Wallen
I
is.
saw it. It's a worse version of Twister.
That's a bummer because Twister is one of my favorites.
So you're saying the review was accurate. Okay.
yeah.
Don't let the back to school season set back your nutrition. Green Chef is making it easy to stick to your healthy eating habits with a new flexible menu featuring over 35 customizable recipe options every week. New options include doubling your portion of protein or veggies, swapping out a plant-based protein like organic tofu or tempeh, or dairy-free or gluten-free options. Are you vegetarian or vegan? They've got you covered there too. Green Chef has over 15 recipes every week to support those lifestyles and more. You'll also find over 15 weekly recipes that are ready in 25 minutes or less. So you'll have the power to tailor the menu to your needs, satisfying and nourishing everyone in your family in about 30 minutes. I know for Jake and I, we're really busy and we don't always have time to cook fresh for ourselves, so Green Chef has been amazing. We personally tried the Mediterranean menu, and it has been delicious. So take your clean routine further with 2 times the support. Green Chef's healthiest menu ever, and access to thousands of top-rated gyms and fitness studios worldwide from ClassPass. For a limited time, new Green Chef subscribers will also receive 50 free credits to use at ClassPass, about a month's worth of membership. Quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients and organic farm fresh produce are in every box. That's what makes Green Chef the #1 meal kit for clean eating. So if you want to try out Green Chef, go to greenchef.com/romancingthepod class for 50% off your first box, plus 50 free credits with ClassPass. That's code romancingthepodclass at greenchef.com/romancingthepodclass to get 50% off your first box and 50 free ClassPass credits.
Warmer, sunnier days are calling, and you can fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer or fall, really. Thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. You can keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. So there's no shopping, no chopping, no cooking, no cleanup, no prepping. It's so fast, it's so easy. You can make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert and stay fueled with great nutritious options. Make today the day you kickstart your healthy new routine. What are you waiting for? Head to factormeals.com/romancingthepod50 and use code romancingthepod50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code romancingthepod50 at factormeals.com/romancingthepod50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Anyway, back into this movie. We cut to Arnold Schwarzenegger is like timing it. So like he knows that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be on her exercise bike for whatever period of time. And so he uses that to like steal her purse, pass it out the window to Tom Arnold, who's going to sew a bunch of stuff into the lining of the purse and then hand it back, which to me is, 100% a man wrote this. Because if you think a woman wouldn't immediately notice that her purse was way heavier than it normally is, I would notice immediately. I'd be like, what the hell is in here? And start digging through it. And you would immediately feel those things in the lining.
I think it's funny that they want us to believe that Tom Arnold sewed a bottom leather liner onto her bag in that van in a way that was convincing.
Yeah.
Right. In like 30 minutes or whatever it was.
It's also funny that all the things they do to her purse and all of her gadgets or whatever, you could just do I pulled her up on Find My Friends. She's here. You know, all of that is now available on my phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today it would be the phone.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they flip her purse. Now, if they had stolen the purse or taken pictures and replaced it with maybe, but even then, I don't know, maybe I'm weird and I just know too much about my purse. But it's like MacGyver in there,
I would certainly know if someone put a bug in my purse because I'd be like, I don't own a purse.
Yeah.
Well, whose purse is that?
Yeah.
Whose purse is this? Why do I have it?
Why is there a microphone in it?
Yeah. Anyway, so at this point also Tom Arnold is like, maybe you guys could talk this out. Which no one ever tries. At no point in this movie is like, hey, I think you might be having an affair and can we talk about it? No. Or hey, I've been having some feelings for somebody else and you're not home. Can we talk about it? No, nobody does. Nobody does at all.
I like that at least Tom Arnold offered that as a thing
Right.
to pin to highlight the absurdity of the act because I hate movies that rely on a plot point that is just purely the characters won't communicate effectively is so sloppy and shitty. But at least with this one, it's they presented the thing, but Arnold's just too PO'd to care about that as an option.
Yeah.
He's too hurt in this moment. He just wants sort of revenge.
Yeah.
Right. But we cut to the next day and she goes on this date with Bill Paxton and they're listening in. And initially it sounds like maybe she's on a date with another secret agent who is being way too free with the information about being a secret agent until he tries to take credit for what Arnold Schwarzenegger did with the horse and the motorcycle. And they're like, wait a second, that's us. This guy is fake. And they're like, oh my God, he's pretending to be a secret agent to get into her pants, which at this point, if you wanted to end this movie right now, Arnold would go home and be like, honey, I've been lying to you for 17 years. I'm a secret agent. Here's all of the proof of it. And we're going to take a vacation so that you can bang a secret agent for a week for as much as you want.
For real, though.
For real, though. Like, we're just going to figure it out.
But Paige, isn't it sexier that he like kidnaps her and makes her do a strip tease for him?
Interrogates her, sexually assaults her.
Yeah,
you know?
Isn't that sexier, Paige?
Where's the romance? Isn't this called romancing the pod, Paige?
Look, Todd, you know my opinions on the 365 films, and you know that's an unfair question.
Yeah, you don't have a very good track record where those types of questions are concerned.
Sure, where I'm just like, did she get hurt though? Yes, she was kidnapped. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Paige was like, I have a follow-up question. Did the bathroom look like a cathedral? Because I might be all right with it.
It was an amazing, crazy shower. Is it 80s Kurt Russell? These are the follow-up questions I need to ask to determine.
Paige, don't go overboard now. Come on.
Yes. Don't you remember being in the Navy? Anyway, they follow Bill Paxton and find out that he is literally just a used car salesman driving the cars from his lot.
I love Tom Arnold's almost respect for the game that Bill Paxton is pulling off.
Same.
He's like, oh my God, I kind of like him. I mean, we're going to have to kill him, obviously, whatever. But like, I kind of like him.
Right. That's a given.
It's so funny.
I love that this becomes like the source of Tom Arnold's stress, and then it becomes his entertainment. Like that is so great. Yeah.
Because it made me laugh here when I was like, oh my God, it's all fake. Because I had totally forgotten this portion of the plot of the movie. But then the thing that really struck me now as an adult is when we find out later how they met, and that he like has a fake suitcase with secret agent stuff and a gun in it that he just like throws at her and runs.
This is his bit. Yeah.
It's his bit.
Okay, if it's his bit, does he walk around with it all the time in hopes to run into a hot lady?
Yes, Todd, he does. And he picks his mark because she's sitting alone at a restaurant. But yeah, and I could not stop laughing at that. I was like, that is both brilliant and deranged and the best kind of way.
But it's just, it speaks to the guy's character because he's such a piece of crap that he can't get women otherwise. Like, perfectly written character.
Well, and thus, Arnold pulls up, they go on a test drive in the same car that he kind of tracked him in because he's trying to get information about him, like how long has this been going on and everything. And this is where we get the insane, like Bill Paxton's monologue in this scene is crazy. And it is more of a monologue than a back and forth because Arnold will ask one question and he's like, it's not just skanks, man. It's even classy ladies. Here's my angle. You got to have an angle. It's a trade secret. I can't tell you about it. And you're like, this must be the most fun.
My favorite part of that page is when he says, it's trade secret. I can't tell you about it. Smash cut to them eating hot dogs and him spilling the beans immediately. Because you knew that guy couldn't wait to brag about how he was sort of, I don't know, it's a gray area, but like what he's doing is terrible. Like, it's not even really a gray area. Like, it's false pretenses at least.
It's false pretenses at least. But what I will also say is that I think we get a sense that he's maybe not as successful at it as you would think, because like we will learn that Jamie Lee Curtis did not sleep with him and wasn't necessarily like, she was interested in like the intrigue of the adventure, but it wasn't necessarily him. And he had multiple people going at once, which means that I was like, how long is he playing this out to try and have sex with people like one time? Like, was he going to pay for flights to Paris?
That's actually a good point.
Paige, that's part of it for him. That's part of it.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I think that maybe there's an element of like role-playing adventure to him too. Like he can live in that fantasy as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, he's clearly a deranged individual. Yeah. I mean, like,
Okay. But what would be your fantasy life if you could, if you had the chance, just lie to people, you could set it up and like you are going to Bill Paxton your way into somebody else's life. What's your role play? Like, what's your character?
Oh God. I can't even put myself in those shoes because I like my life and I think I'm an interesting enough person that I wouldn't have to have a bit.
Sure.
But I don't know. This also like dips into like stolen valor, which is fucking weird. Like,
right, because he's not a CIA agent.
Yeah, the whole character's just awful.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I realized as we're like, it's terrible. Who would want to do that? And Todd was like, right, who would want to do that?
Who could ever think to do that?
Well, you asked like, what would your character be? And I was thinking back to like when I was on planes.
I do lie on planes all the time. I lie about what I do constantly.
For like 15 years. I don't do it anymore, but I would lie all the time. I would just make I would make up a character and I would play that character for the whole flight.
Wow.
I used to love doing that. It was like a bit.
See, I'm a bit of a yapper, so I'll tell people, and if they show interest in my life, then I'll be like, yeah, I'll entertain it, you know?
That's sort of my vibe now, but I used to just make it up.
Yeah. Anyway, this scene is also where we get his assertion that she has an ass like a 10-year-old boy, and I don't want to dig into that any further.
No.
But he does fantasize about punching him, and that is a great shot. I do love that.
It's very graphic. Like, it like breaks his face. It's awesome.
It's like a jump scare. He kills him. He breaks
Yes.
his nose
Yes.
into his skull.
It looks like he murders him with one punch, and I was like, oh boy, wouldn't that be fun?
Paige.
You know, like on the list of really fun Bill Paxton deaths, that's up there.
He does get killed in a lot of Cameron movies.
Yeah. Anyway, he drives back to the dealership and is driving crazy to kind of like big dick him in the car. But he's like, okay, do you want to buy the car? And he's like, hold it for a day. And he's like, all right.
Hold on. He goes, all right, because it's you. Like a douche used car salesman. It's perfect.
Yep.
Bill Paxton's so good in this.
But we cut to Tom Arnold the next day, giving him the printouts of the dialogue between his wife and anyone that she talked to on the phone. And he was like, anything from Simon? And he was like, no. And there's a page missing.
Can I point this out? There's no way that Arnold Schwarzenegger should be driving this vehicle if he's paying this close attention to the page numbers. Like, pull over and look at this script, guy.
He pulls over and parks on the sidewalk.
This is actually one of the shots that's in DC page. You can see some of the buildings behind
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's one of the few.
It is one of the only that is not like what we would call now like a Shutterstock establishing shot of DC.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like one of the only ones.
Well, and I'm not even sure if it technically really is DC.
It might not be.
Yeah, or if it's the portions of the backlots and things that we have here that just look like DC.
It probably is.
It probably is. Yeah. Anyway, so he's like, give me page 10.
Give me the goddamn page.
Yeah, and he
He
punches
breaks
through
the
the
window.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is so hard to do. I went to a rage room for rage, and breaking the windows, surprisingly tough.
Yeah.
Rage rooms, however, surprisingly fun.
Pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. Great stress reliever.
But on that page, we find out that she was supposed to meet Bill Paxton under the bridge downtown at 8 o'clock sharp. And they're going to try and intercept her because it's almost 8, even though it's fully daytime.
Yeah.
It's like the middle of the afternoon. They're like, it's almost 8 right now. Hysterical. We cut to under the bridge moments later where it is full ass dark as if it's 8 p.m. at night.
Yep.
And she has left her purse at home because she has brought a different purse.
Ooh la la.
It didn't match her outfit page.
Yes. Yeah.
But he pulls up in that, like, what is it, like a Corvette, something like that?
It's a vet. Yeah.
Yeah, because he says, because the vet gets him wet. That's right, Paige. I remember him saying that.
That's
Yeah, get
right.
some wet.
How could you forget?
Yeah, I like the car. It's great. But he's like,
It's dope.
get in the car. We got to go immediately.
Yeah.
But he's called in, like, his coworkers to spy on her in person now.
Well, yeah, he puts out an APB on them as if they are enemies of the state.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, is very risky because he doesn't at any point be like, make sure not to kill them. Like, he does not give that direction.
Is it risky, Paige, or did she make her choice?
I mean,
I am joking.
yes, I hope so. It's very risky.
It is very risky. Yeah, you should never do that. Oh, my God.
Well, and I did, oh my God, Bill Paxton being like, you got to duck down until we get out of town.
Oh my God.
So her head's in his lap.
I love that. Even the guys in the chopper are like, oh, yeah, her head's definitely in his lap.
Yeah.
Someone's having a good time.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo.
and then-
Or some
He says Yahoo. Is what it
Yahoo.
is.
Yeah, Yahoo. And then Tom Arnold goes, maybe she's sleepy.
Maybe she's sleepy.
Sleepy. Here's what's so funny to me. There's literally no reason for Bill Paxton to do it other than he's just like, hell yeah, her head's near my dick.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even ask her to, like, none of it. He's just like, ha ha ha, her head's down there. Like, I think it really is the role play for him where he's just
Yeah.
like,
Paige, it is part of it. It is 100% part of it for him.
oh,
He's
God.
also sort of breaking the intimate touch barrier.
Sure,
Right?
sure. I guess. I mean, yeah. But anyway, they get to, he's like, this is my safe house. It's definitely his real house. That is definitely just a trailer.
That's straight up where that dude lives because he does not own that car lot. He is a salesman for sure.
Yeah. And he's like, so she's like, what do you need me to do? He's like, I need you to be my wife. She's like, I'm already married. And he's like, just for the op in Paris. And she sees like Paris tickets like conspicuously left out on the counter.
I mean, strategically placed, one might say, Paige. I mean, like, they're there for a reason.
Let me ask you this. A, do you think the tickets are real? B, do you think he bought one set of tickets one time and then because this is at a time when you could buy tickets and then turn them in whenever you needed to like use them.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. And just always leaves them out for everybody so that everyone thinks it's for them.
Probably the investment. It's a ticket that you turn in. That makes sense.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because you pay one time and you use it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're skipping the one part too where when they clink glasses, it's not glass, it's
plastic.
plastic.
Yeah.
It is such a perfect moment. Like it just sets the tone for the whole trailer park thing.
Yeah.
It also, if you watch this with subtitles on, which whenever we do a movie, I try to do because you catch stuff in the subtitles, it says bracketed plastic glasses clinking.
Yeah.
It's great. Now, here's my second question. Do you think he would have flown with her to Paris? Or do you think the next morning he's like, turns out they don't need me in Paris, but I'm glad we got comfortable enough so that anytime they do need me, you could be my wife on a future op?
I think it would have been that one.
It's definitely
latter.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely that one.
Because he would have had to have like upkept the character in Paris and like
Right.
been showing his ass that he doesn't speak the language and also disappearing for moments of time, getting 2 hotels that he couldn't afford.
Right.
Like the whole thing is, yeah.
Yep.
I also had a theory too that he asked her to have the head down so that she couldn't see where he lives.
Oh, that could be too, that she couldn't see how she got there.
Yeah.
He would just drop her back off. Here's what's terrible. He's doing a terrible thing. It's a terrible, mean thing to do to a person. Boy, is it funny.
Yeah.
He's so funny when he's doing it. Yeah. Like,
oh, the elaborate, like, I don't know if either of you listened to the TikTok thing earlier this year of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? Where it was like 50 episodes of this guy pretending to buy people a mansion and stuff. It was wild, but none of it was thought through. This is all thought through in a way that's so delightfully weird
Yeah.
and amazing. Anyway, so he's like, if you're going to go with me to Paris, we have to be convincing. So we've got to do it. At no point is she like, wait a second, really? What?
Yeah, they'll blow her cover. You know, he's like, get one jump and they'll know you're a fake.
They'll know.
he's like,
Yeah.
that a jump like that could get us both killed. Like,
Yeah.
he's putting her, like, you have to be comfortable with us fucking or we will both die.
We
Yeah.
will both die.
God, this is so twisted. Oh
It's
my God.
so twisted. Which I don't know if either of you have seen the movie The 365.
The 365?
The 365. Is it three? No, 363.
365 we've done for this. We've done
No, no,
every one
no.
of those for this podcast page. You've made me and I've hated them.
No, it's Lady Secret Agents. The 355. I was so fucking close.
You were 10 away?
I was 10 away.
Honestly, if there were only 10 more ladies, you'd have been right. Because I'm assuming
Right?
that 355 is an organization with 355 ladies. And honestly, I think if you get 355 ladies together, you probably could have taken down Bin Laden too.
Probably take down Bin Laden.
I mean, that's like a lot of ladies, guys.
But it starts with one of the agents and a male agent on an op, and they're supposed to pretend to be married, and they bang before for almost the same reasoning as this movie.
Wow.
But they go through with it. Anyway, they start making out, and Jamie Lee Curtis is like, no.
She clearly does revoke consent.
Yeah, when she's like doing it, she's like, you can see her visit. Like Jamie Lee Curtis's performance is amazing. Like she's like,
great.
she's like trying to get away, and it's really sad, but also very like I could see that happening.
Yeah. And while that's happening, real secret agents are surrounding the house. And then they just like, and we don't really see how they do it, slice off the end of the trailer.
It's fucking awesome. I think it's
Like the jaws of life or something.
I want to say they have some thermite stuff that it's
It's
like
got to be thermite.
it's a
Yeah,
cord
yeah.
that you put and they light it and then it just sizzles it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fucking sick.
It does make the front half of his like trailer fall off.
Yes.
I do think it's funny though, because like that shocks him and scares him, and he falls onto Jamie Lee Curtis and her like in between her legs. So when they do come in there, it looks like they're actually having sex.
God.
Yeah. Well, and I do love that right before the wall of his trailer falls off, she's like, I can't do it. And he's like, what if you could do it for our country?
Yeah, do it for your country.
Do it for your
Yeah, don't do what if you can't do it for me, can you do it for your country? And he's a terrible villain in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's so funny.
Oh, what country would you do it for?
New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Someone's got to survive these pandemics.
I'd sleep with Bill Paxton for New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah. Todd, any country?
No.
You wouldn't bang Jamie Lee Curtis for Scotland?
Oh, I thought we were talking about Paxton.
Oh, you could bang Bill Paxton if that's what you choose to do.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is an easier sell.
Yeah, 100%.
Too late, Blaine. You already committed.
That's fine. But Jamie Lee Curtis is like crazy beautiful.
Not to yes and Blaine's New Zealand, but I wouldn't do it for any country because I'd do it for free, Bill. Let's go. Although, didn't he pass away though, unfortunately?
He did recently pass away. It's very unfortunate. It was very sad.
Yeah, poor guy.
I missed my chance.
You missed your chance. I missed my chance.
Sorry, Blaine.
Anyway, they take her in and take him somewhere else, but she gets put into the van.
Not before nailing Tom Arnold in the dick, and then he's
Right
just
in the
going,
dick.
oh, God.
Well, and I love that somebody tries to like knock her out with the butt of a rifle.
Yeah.
But because Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't tell anybody not to hurt her and didn't tell people that she's not a real enemy of the state, they're like gonna knock her out. She's like, ow. And he just punches that guy. He punches a coworker.
Yeah.
Who has to be like, what the fuck is going on?
We've all been there though.
It's the whole thing is just a comedy of errors. It is such a clusterfuck, but it is so funny. And it's shot like awesome. Like there's helicopter shots of Tom Arnold gripping his dick, limping away
Like,
in tactical gear. It's
yes.
oh God.
I mean, that's how the scene ends. It's very funny. Like there are some very comedic moments in this movie that really land.
Yeah.
It ends with the perfect Bill Paxton line as they're driving him away, dragging him away, where he just says, take her, don't hurt me. Where it's like, he's immediately like, do whatever, just don't kill me. But we cut to the interrogation room where Tom Arnold and Arnold Schwarzenegger use the like Wizard of Oz God voice to be like, so do you love your husband? Like really?
Oh, God.
So like, how long have you been doing this affair thing? Like what's going on with that?
Yeah, why is the affair happening? But this is where we get a quick flash to how she met Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
And he throws that briefcase at her that has a gun and pamphlets for like, it's got passports and pamphlets for different countries, but they're like travel pamphlets. But to her, it all adds up to secret agent, which was very funny to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was insane that she took it with her to a second location. Like I would not, if someone left a briefcase with me, take it with me anywhere.
Look, if I've learned everything from airports, you run.
He prompted her or something with like
I'll be in touch with you. I'll find you. Yeah.
Yeah, or the fate of the country, or he was like a loose threat or something.
Yes. But like you never know when that's going to be a bomb. Like don't take abandoned bags with you if you did not help pack them or know what's in them.
I'm definitely going to treat it like an airport.
This is pre-Oklahoma City bombing even. Everything's fine back then.
Yeah, that's true. It is. And I think it's also funny that she didn't open it, find a gun, and go, I should take this to the cops. Like, she's just like, this is safest at my desk.
Yeah.
No, it seems like she was into it, sort of. She was like, I want to see where this danger takes me.
Well, and that's kind of what she says in this interview. She's like, I just needed something. My life was boring. I wanted to be special. I just wanted to have done things. And I feel like my life has gone so long and I haven't done any of it. And like someday I won't get a chance to. So fuck it. I don't care if you don't understand. I just needed some excitement, which I think at this point is like Schwarzenegger's like, oh, well, if I just told her what was really up with my whole deal, like I think she'd be into it.
He could have just walked out at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And
but isn't it more romantic that he kidnaps his wife and then makes her do a strip tease under false pretenses? Isn't that more romantic, guys?
Romancing the Pod. It's the name of the show.
Yeah.
I do find that this whole admission of my life is boring and I just wanted to be special, this seems very sad, but it's even more sad when she's accepting the mission and she's like, duh, like, of course I'm going to do this. Like, she's like, I don't know. It's like, it's a really authentic performance from Jamie Lee Curtis. And it's just such a bummer knowing that it's all a ruse that her twisted husband is putting on her.
Well, because the reason she's like, duh, I'm going to do it. It's like, well, you could either go to jail forever for treason or you could then pretend to be a stripper for this, like, John, more or less, you know?
Right. And she says that she didn't sleep with him, which we did not see on screen, so I'm going to believe her. I'm going to say that she didn't.
I assume that they were building up to that. Like, it was supposed to happen this night.
Yeah.
And if Arnold Schwarzenegger had not involved the U.S. government, Bill Paxton would have been successful into sleeping with his wife under false pretenses.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm not mad that my government funds went to help out with that.
I mean, I maybe am. We could maybe feed some kids and shit.
Bill Paxton is a menace that needs to be stopped, Paige.
Anyway, he's like, okay, so you got to work for us. We'll give you an assignment. We'll call you. They're going to call you. You're going to be, it's like, your contact is Boris. And she's like, and I'm what? Natasha? And they're like, no, Doris.
She's so let down.
I know. I was kind of too. I was like, it should be Natasha. Anyway, we cut to them interrogating Bill Paxton over what looks like Hoover Dam, but I think is just one of the LA viaducts.
I think it is. It's a fall that would kill him. I'd be scared.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Of course.
But
Yeah.
either way, it's not DC, is what you're saying.
I mean,
no.
maybe, but like not any place in DC that I know.
I mean, they are clearly in the desert, which is famously not in DC.
Not
in
DC.
DC.
Yeah.
DC's a friggin' swamp.
Not the East Coast.
Yeah.
But my favorite is that he's like, I haven't seen your faces, don't worry. And then they pull up their masks. He's like, oh, it's you. You still interested in the vet? And I was like, bruh, at a time like this, the fact that you're still trying to make a sale.
Paige, did you learn nothing from Glenn Ross? You can always be closing, Paige.
ABC.
Always be closing. Anyway, he's like, I just sell cars. I'm just, I'm not a spy. And they're like, yeah, you are a spy. And he's like, no, I just lie to women to get laid because I have a tiny dick. And then he pisses himself.
I'm pathetic.
I'm pathetic.
I'm navel lint. I will always remember that line too. Bill Paxton makes this so good because he is just like completely comfortable acting the fool on screen, and it's great.
Yeah.
He goes full like game over,
It
man.
is. It is like that character, but like in this movie.
Yeah.
Just even when they let him go and they're like, get lost, dipshit. And then they
Yes.
shoot the ground and he's just dancing.
No.
Well, because they're like letting him go and he like won't turn his back to them.
He's like, no.
Because he's like, you're going to shoot me when I turn my back.
Yeah,
You're going to shoot me when I turn my back.
Oh, God.
So funny.
The peak of comedy.
You can have the car for free.
I'd have taken the car. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been like, deal.
Yeah. They drop Jamie Lee Curtis off right by her car after she's had probably the most traumatic experience ever. We cut to the next night having dinner with the daughter that they have all but abandoned because neither of them have been home this entire. We have no idea where this daughter has been or what she's been up to or what's with that motorcycle hooligan that she was with earlier. She's just around.
Well, his bike was stolen by a terrorist the night before. So
Got it. There you go.
She's been up to the business of taking care of herself because her parents are ineffective.
yeah.
She had Kraft mac and cheese for the last 6 meals.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Sorry if that was too real for people.
Latchkey kids, man. Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, during dinner, he's like, oh, so it seems like last night was exciting, huh? And she's just like so traumatized. She's like shaking, trying to pour the coffee. And she's like, yeah, the tow truck took a long time. And then the phone rings and they're like, Doris. And she's just like, yes. And they're like, okay, so 1 hour from now, be at the Hotel Marquis and dress sexy. And she's just like, what? Oh, what? Okay. We hang up. We find out that they have prepped a bunch of other stuff in advance where they had a French guy with like an accent record directions. And like, I know it works out in the movie, but this is the Ferris Bueller of like FBI stings where like they're trying to like predict the things that she would ask that they would have to answer.
Yep.
And it's a cassette. So that means that he's having to rewind and play and rewind and play. And you're like, there's no way you'd be rewinding that accurately.
Or that your voice would sound anywhere near like you were actually speaking and not coming from a tiny, tinny little
Speaker.
recorder.
Hilarious.
It is like a handheld tape. And the speaker is presumably on that tape player, right?
Right.
So it would sound like the sound was coming from his hand.
Yeah.
Go back to an earlier point that Todd had mentioned. When you think about like now they're getting a hotel and they're wasting like man hours, plus they
Right.
had that helicopter strike force and all that. Like I would love to know the dollar value of how much was put towards fixing Arnold Schwarzenegger's marriage. Like
Millions.
millions.
Millions. It's absolutely millions.
Yeah.
In like personnel and equipment alone, right?
Yeah.
She broke that two-way mirror in the cell. Yeah, like there's tons of ways.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to have to explain that.
Timothy McVeigh was able to bomb the Oklahoma building because he was like pulled those guys off to
Right?
chase his wife.
When was the Oklahoma City bombing? Was it in 94?
I don't know.
It's 95. I
Okay.
believe it's 95 and Ruby Ridge is 94. But
I was there.
anyway, there you go. That's neither here nor there. But she gets ready and shows up to that hotel unsubtle as hell. And is just like, hi, is there an envelope for Doris? Just looking like full PTA mom.
She fixes that, though, in the hallway.
Yeah.
She does. And I remember, this is the part of the movie I always remember. This is the part that stuck with me the most. Not just because of that time with my roommate.
Your roommate, yeah.
But I remember as a kid feeling like her dress was super ugly. And then she tore all the sleeves and everything off. And I was like, now that's a cool dress.
Yeah. It was like frills on the shoulders, frills on the bottom, and she just shredded it off. Yeah.
Well, so it looks like a jumper over a blouse, but then she has to like rip the sleeves off. So it looks like it's one of those things where it's meant to look like a jumper, but it's actually sewn in place. Very strange choices. But I do like what she ends up with, which is just like a cool little black dress.
Yeah.
And then she like dumps water out from the flowers and slicks her hair back, which is an interesting choice, but all right.
But this is the moment you should know that they're about to get kidnapped, or at least that she is, because she's in the skimpiest dress she's worn all movie, and they're going to have to concoct a way to make sure she stays in it the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So this is the dress that the damsel in distress is going to get taken in. It's like that sort of vibe.
Just looking back, her hair before I thought was perfectly fine.
Me too. I brought this up.
Yeah, I had no problem with it.
Because I watched this section with Natalie, and I brought this up because I was like, I don't know, I thought her hair looked better before. And apparently, like, slicked back hair was like sexy in this time period.
During this time period, especially for models, it was the business. Like, that was the look.
All right. Well, she's got the look.
Anyway, he plays the tape recorder. She walks in, he plays the tape recorder, and it's like giving her directions where he's like, I like to watch like strip tease. And honestly, she's also supposed to like put a bug on the bedside table, which like her transferring it like to her mouth, like she's so concerned with planting a bug, that is meaningless. But it does make me laugh how serious she is taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, she is told that if she doesn't like successfully do this, the deal's off and she's going to jail. I get why she's taking it seriously.
Stakes are high.
Yeah.
Stakes are high.
I would have thought it was funny that when she sticks it in her mouth and pretends to suck on her finger, if we saw her like swallow it by mistake, because it doesn't matter. So that would have been like a funny beat.
Yeah.
But whatever. Yeah.
Amazing. But so she's dancing and it is fantastically done.
Yeah.
But then he tells her to lie down on the bed and she's like clearly upset and not okay because she's like, this wasn't part of the deal. And he's like, ha ha ha, it's going to be me and it's going to be romantic. And he goes and kisses her and she hits him with the phone.
I loved that.
You know, just like Soulja Boy told her to.
Jesus.
Kissing through the phone.
Just absolutely nails him across. I mean, would have fractured the skull
100%.
if it was a lesser mortal, but fortunately he has that T100 endoskeleton.
Yeah.
This wasn't Hercules, he'd be dead.
Yeah. I mean, what I really need is her clocking in with that phone and then we get his POV where he just selects a response and it's just, fuck you, asshole. Like, is Terminator. But here's the other thing. She hits him a bunch of times with the phone.
Oh, she kicks his ass.
And he's on the ground making very Arnold noises of like, yeah, get to Miles. Like that.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. And like, the fact that she doesn't recognize those noises is crazy.
I mean, they've had sex at least once. They have a child. She's heard those noises.
I would assume. Anyway, so in Storm, actual bad guys, because spoiler, an hour ago, this was an action movie.
Right?
Lest you have forgotten.
Well, I mean, Paige, I do think it's wild that they were tracking terrorists at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
And then when she starts to have the quote affair, he's like, no, the terrorists can deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on my marriage right now.
Yeah, I'm working on myself.
Right. Family first.
I got to find some work-life balance.
But yeah, so the terrorist storm in, she thinks they're there for her because she thinks she's on a real mission. And she's like, no, he's got nothing to do with this. Doesn't question why he's there.
Yeah.
At all.
And then he's like, shh, please stop talking. And they load them onto a plane. It's Tia Carrere. And she's just like, oh, nice to see you. And he's like,
no, you forgot I was in this movie, didn't you?
You forgot. And now we're going to sing Ballroom Blitz.
Would have loved it, though.
Would have loved. Load them onto the plane. And she is implying that she and Arnold know each other biblically.
Oh, yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of like, oh, really? Like, well, screw you then. But before they can even get in a fight about it, they both get sedated.
Just like the Ramones.
I love this cut because they go from being on an airplane,
yes,
immediate cut to helicopter.
Yep.
Like the airplane flies away, it fades into them getting off a helicopter, walking and blindfolded, which means that they had to change planes at some point. We never saw it.
And probably did at least 30 to 45, maybe an hour ago.
Right, and we have no idea.
I never thought about that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
They had to fly from DC, where they were, to, I'm assuming, some local airport to like the Keys.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe like Miami or one of the smaller airports around there, and then helicopter over to the island. That is connected by bridge. They could have just drove.
They could have just driven. But then also, I was like, well, did they make the transfer conscious or unconscious? Like, did they carry them unconscious into the helicopter, which only seats so many people?
It would have been very funny to see like one person carrying Jamie Lee Curtis over her shoulder and then like 9 guys carrying Arnold off the plane.
Like
She
Paul
would have been
Bears.
hilarious. Yeah.
But also, like, they had to buck someone off the helicopter because there just wasn't enough room because Arnold took 2 seats.
Yeah, you got to hang off the bottom. Like, I don't make the rules. It's seniority.
Yeah, you got to ride Cape Fear style.
Yeah.
On a helicopter?
So they get to the Keys, which is basically an Al-Qaeda camp, is what it looks like.
An American Al-Qaeda camp, but yeah.
Yes, because it's in the Keys.
Yes.
Which also, they're like, it's an uninhabited island in the Keys. And I was like, so no one noticed them setting up like a munitions and training camp for months here? Because they've been shipping all those artifacts with weapons in them.
Not weapons, Paige, nukes.
Well, these ones are the nukes, but this has been ongoing.
Well, true. Yeah, they do have a lot of munitions already there. So, yeah.
They're pretty lived in there. They're pretty settled for sure.
Right.
They started building this training camp 3.5 years ago. Like they've been here for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And no one noticed, even though there's a bridge connecting it to the mainland. And they carve into what are supposed to be these like ancient Sumerian like horsemen, or I guess it was ancient Persian because it was from Darius the First. I think they must be fake because there was no way for them to like seal it up if they were real.
No, she says.
I know they said they're real, but
Tia Carrera says that they are priceless, and that's insane.
how'd they get the nukes in there?
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
sure, how they get the nukes in there, but you know what's worth more than $2 million? Priceless dollars. Like, why don't you just sell? If the money is your motivation, why don't you just sell the 4 horsemen and not get involved in the murder of literally millions, cities worth of people for such a small amount?
Yeah.
There's an even crazier thing like this in just a couple minutes, and I can't wait to talk
It's
about it because I
nuts.
was screaming about it in my house. But so this is how they've transported the nukes, and she's involved, and now the plan is kind of clear.
Yes.
But so they're like, great, Arnold Schwarzenegger, your wife says you're not a secret agent. She is, but why don't you tell us what this missile is? And if you don't, we'll kill her. And he's like, it's a fancy missile. I know all about missiles because
Says all the specs. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the stuff. And she's like, what is you lying son of a bitch? He's like, I'm sorry. And they go to basically they make him make like a video with the camera that's running out of batteries. And then they drag them off to the torture thing. Meanwhile, the rest of them, including the leader guy, try to continue to make their video of like, here's why we're doing this.
I mean, it is like the proto-terrorist video. We've seen it 1,000
Right.
times at this point.
IRL.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the battery's running out.
I did think it was very funny, and I do think from this moment on, this movie gives some pretty funny comedic beats to some terrorists.
Yes.
And I think that's a very interesting, like, feature of this movie.
Different time, man.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, I just think it, like, plays on that it's such a campy, like, sort of silly movie that, like, even the heightened action feels like it fits in this universe. And I feel like the humanizing of the terrorists on this level, at least enough to give them comedic beats. I mean, some of them are like them dying in funny ways, you know?
Oh, the rocket launcher one got me.
It's wild. It's so wild.
Yeah, there's like a whole Three Stooges bits, with the terrorists.
Yes.
I will say, looking back on cinema, they did the same thing for the Russians. The Russians were never like...
and the Nazis.
ooh, wow. You know what? I was going to say...
Indiana Jones, the Nazis are dying in hilarious ways.
yeah, they're real goofy. Huh, interesting.
Yeah, it's whoever your bad guy is. You want to portray them as dumb.
But the terrorists in this movie have real Four Lions vibes, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's like a comedy of errors, but from like a terrorist cell operating in London's perspective. It's like a comedy, sort of.
Honestly, I'm kind of here for that. But like, no, I have never heard of this. I will have to check it out.
I don't remember much of the movie. I remember laughing at a few points. One of them was there was a guy who was running across a field with bomb ingredients and it just blows him up. And it's like shockingly funny. And it's like those kind of moments.
But okay, but I also laugh at in Pulp Fiction where they accidentally shoot the guy in the back seat.
Yeah.
And they just like paint the back seat with blood. And it's just this like, fuck, what do we do now?
I shot Marvin in the head.
I shot Marvin in the head.
Yeah, I think you might like Four Lions then.
I might.
And Riz Ahmed is like one of the main guys.
I love a good surprise death. I mean, one of my favorite parts of Tropic Thunder is when Steve Coogan dies instantly.
Yeah.
Where he's like, this will be your stage and I will be your explosion. Like, great. Anyway, so they take them away to be tortured. Meanwhile, because they still have the tracker in her purse that they do destroy, but now like Tom Arnold and everybody kind of knows where they are and they can be on the ground in 12 minutes because they had been tracking them the whole time, which means that from now till roughly 26 or so minutes later in movie time has only been 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's so much
no.
action.
Why did you apply math? Because that breaks my brain now.
Yeah. Well, now you could argue that we are seeing multiple things that are happening simultaneously, but 12 minutes is a bit of a stretch. You could also argue that because they lost the signal, it took them longer to find them. So maybe it's longer. But anyway, we cut to the torture room where Tia Carrere is like, I'm only doing this for the money, which at this point you're like, bitch, get your money and go. You delivered the nukes.
Yeah.
Like, get off this island. There's a nuke here. Like,
it's insane that she stays. I would get my $2 million and then leave as fast as possible.
As fast as possible, but she does not. They give Arnold Schwarzenegger sodium amytal truth serum. And this is where he's like, yeah, I've been in for 17 years. And she's like, you've killed people? He's like, all the time. But they were bad people.
He's like, they were all bad, hon. They were all bad people.
I do love this as a writing device, though, because this is like, at this point, neither of them should trust each other at all.
Right.
So the fact that she is getting unfiltered truth from Arnold does like, it's very healing for their marriage in the weirdest it's so funny. Yeah.
And it does sort of give like her and the audience an out to be like, okay, so he really does love her.
Yes.
He really is in this because it is positioned like that truth serum fully works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's another time thing that's going to break your brain that don't work in this third act. It's at this point that the terrorists have his wallet and they realize he has a daughter. They have from now until when he gets notified that his daughter has been kidnapped to have kidnapped her, right?
Okay.
They are about to arm the nuke momentarily, like 10 minutes from now, in like the world of the movie, for 90 minutes. That nuke goes off around sunrise. They are told immediately after that his daughter has been kidnapped in DC.
Damn, they're efficient.
Right? So like, who kidnapped the daughter?
Paige, you couldn't have kidnapped her even if he called someone who was in DC and said, bring the daughter here. She would still be en route by the time that nuke goes off.
Yeah.
Well, and so here's the thing. I do think that at the end, that building is the building in Florida or DC? We'll talk about it when we get there. Table it. But
it's
like
definitely in Florida.
Okay. So just keep that in mind. Think about, and there is a line that Tom Arnold says that implies that they know that this is a story problem. And we'll get to it when we get to it.
Interesting.
Awesome. Okay.
The only reason I bring it up is because here's where that time clock starts, because here's where he finds out he's got a daughter.
I did love that they armed the nuke and then literally put it in concrete. Like there's no way you're not stopping that bomb.
Brilliant. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Is it brilliant? Because they've only got 90 minutes till it goes off and that's wet concrete, which is going to take 3 days to harden. So, like, what does it matter if there's concrete?
Well, because if you're going to try, if someone theoretically was going to try to disarm the bomb, now they got wet concrete.
You couldn't get to,
Yeah.
Right. And you'd have to dig it out and you probably wouldn't, whatever. From that point of view, I think I view it more as a metaphor that they're like, we're united in our resolve. Because I'm like, well, that thing's going to go off and just spray everything with wet concrete and obliterate everything around it. Because like the concrete is meaningless other than it makes it slightly difficult to disarm the nuke. But I also don't know that you could have disarmed the nuke in the time frame anyway.
I thought this is how you made like lab-grown diamonds. It's just like concrete and a nuke, boom, diamonds.
Oh, you would need like charcoal briquettes or something like that and a nuke.
Yeah.
I got a Dollar General right by my head. We could do that.
There you go.
Let's go make some
fucking do this.
diamonds, baby.
I'm thinking of a new business opportunity here.
Y'all got a nuke?
Yeah, Paige, I'll get the charcoal briquettes. You figure out the nuke situation.
Yeah.
Me figure out the nuke. Anyway, they realize he has a daughter. Again, they don't have his address or any other information about him, but they're going to manage to kidnap her in under 90 minutes.
Kidnap her and bring her from D.C. to Florida, which is easily a 2.5 hour, possibly longer flight.
It's really
Right.
impressive. I mean, that's
Right.
you got to hand it to the terrorists on that one.
Pretty amazing.
I didn't realize they had access to the Concorde.
Yeah. I mean, because, well, again, we'll talk about it more when we get to it. Back to the torturing, where he's like, hey, so what's your plan? And he's like, oh, I'm going to kill you with that thing, and I'm going to kill that guy and kill the guard. And he's like, when? He's like, right now, because the handcuffs are open. Ha ha ha. And he just flat out murders 3 people in front of Jamie Curtis's full face. And she's just like, oh my God.
She's into it, Paige.
Yeah. Oh, who wouldn't be?
I saw her face.
Yeah.
Like, especially when the more ripped his shirt gets. Yes.
She's into it.
Like, of course.
Yeah.
But he then basically goes on a one-man murder spree for like another 5 minutes. They murder. We've seen all of the people that are on this island. They kill 3 times the amount of people that are on this island.
Yeah, the kill count's like 40 in the next 15 minutes of this movie. And half of them, Jamie Lee Curtis kind of gets credit for dropping her Uzi
hold
down
on.
the steps.
That shit
I'll
rocked.
get to it. I
Yeah.
will get to it in a second. So they cover the nuke in concrete and an American flag. So it's like an American flag and then concrete on top of it.
Wait, that would have helped them disarm it then, because it's like, thank God
Right.
this American flag blocked off all the concrete.
Blocked off all the concrete.
That actually, all they would have to do is pull it out and then pull the flag off of it.
Right,
And it's like
right.
a clean nuke again. Man, terrorists are dumb, right?
And again, that concrete will not harden in 90 minutes.
They got that quick drying solution, Paige.
Yeah, quickcrete. Anyway, they're like, all right, so we armed the nuke. We got the cement. Let's get in the trucks. Let's go. Nothing to stop us. And this is where Jamie Lee Curtis is like, oh my God, there's a road. They could just drive. Like, first of all, why'd they use the plane and the helicopter earlier? But fine.
But from here, they could feasibly drive to any U.S. city. And that's sort of their thing. They're like,
Right.
we're going to blow up one city every week until we get our demands met.
Right. Like a less cool version of The Rock. And by that, I mean the movie, not the actor.
Right.
And Arnold is like, she's like, there's nothing to stop them. And he's like, just us. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then he Spider-Man's down and snaps the dude's neck.
He does Spider-Man down, exactly, yes.
Snaps the dude's neck. That dude MacGruber's a gun all over. He tosses a gun to Jamie Lee Curtis and is like, shoot people. She tries to shoot a couple times. She can't handle the gun. She drops it. It falls down the stairs. It goes off, killing everyone in the room except her and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I, as someone who has never fired a real gun in my entire life, have a gun question. I thought triggers were important.
Yeah, right. No, apparently not. The Uzi is just
No?
touch,
Okay.
activated.
Touch Uzi. Okay. All right. I mean, is this what a bump stock is? I don't know. I don't know.
It's not what a bump stock is, but I mean, this gun did look pretty old, but like newer guns should not go off if you drop them. I don't know about this time period, but
I don't know. Who's to say? But yeah, everyone dies. And he just literally gives her a thumbs up. Like, like, good job.
Such a cute moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
This is the best date they've ever been on in their marriage.
it is. She is falling in love with him again in this moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, at this point, Arnold's like, great, I'll take it from here, babe. And he runs out, murders like 20 more people. He gets a fuel truck that they are actively shooting at and turns the pump into a flamethrower, lights half this fucking island on fire.
It's
Yeah.
awesome, though. He like uses the fire from the bullets being shot out of the Uzi to light the gasoline and is like just lighting people on fire.
It's sick.
Well, and then the main terrorist guy gets like a shoulder rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And just blows up the fuel truck, which blows Arnold into the ocean, but he survives.
But everyone does think he's dead, including his wife,
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis thinks he's dead. So Tia Carrere, who's still around for some reason, don't know why, motivation's unclear.
I think she may have been dating the main terrorist guy. Like, it just seems like, why else would she be there? Like, go.
No dick is that good.
I agree.
Apparently his is.
I doubt it. But they get into the limo, and she does say, like, my condolences to the widow. And Jamie Lee Curtis slaps her and cuts her face because she had turned her wedding ring inside her hand
Pretty
and then
sick.
slapped her with her ring hand. Fucking badass.
Yeah, man.
It is great.
But they take off in 2 trucks, a limo, and a helicopter. The helicopter is carrying the main guy, who we will see with the kidnapped daughter momentarily. Everyone else starts the drive back to the mainland. And who should show up but Tom Arnold and everybody just in time to rescue Arnold before the nuke glows? Because, again, only 90 minutes. And they armed it in movie time 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really could have disarmed it, even though I think the concrete was definitely 100% so that they couldn't
Couldn't
they
disarm
could
it.
have the cool explosion.
Yeah, it was.
But he gets fighter jets to come in and blow the bridge, which takes out basically the 2 trucks.
Man, so much of this sequence is so cool, though, because it is just like 2 jets shooting at 4 trucks with nukes.
Yep.
And like blowing the shit out of a bridge. It's awesome.
You're seeing the very might of America and why they hate us so fucking much, just because we're just like air superiority.
And they're like fumbling with weapons in the back of one of the trucks. And this is where they set off a rocket launcher backwards, which launches the guy in the passenger seat through the windshield and into the road, where they then just drive
Run over him.
And ultimately, the jets just shoot out the supports of the bridge and take the bridge out, which takes one of the trucks down immediately. And the other truck, with the guy who has hit the windshield but is still alive, and the other 2 in the back that have now ditched the rocket launcher because it has caused too many problems,
cursed,
are all in the truck. And because there's 2 people in the back and 1 guy in the front, it's teetering right on the edge until a pelican lands on the front and tips the truck into the water.
This is one of those comedic moments that they get. It's so funny.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we made it. And then the pelican, oh. And then it explodes on impact with the water.
Immediately explodes. Yeah.
Immediately
Such fucking Looney Tunes bullshit.
Well, now it's just the limo traveling towards the impending firestorm of exploded trucks.
Yeah.
And a cliff, essentially. Inside, Tia Carrere and Jamie Lee Curtis are fist fighting in the back of the limo until Tia Carrere pulls a gun and she kind of like hits the gun, tries to hit the gun out of her hand, shoots the driver. But the driver is like dead on the gas. So it's still going.
It shoots him in the head. It like does what they do in Pulp Fiction, more or less.
Yep.
Except he's behind the wheel. And so like his body goes slack and his foot just smushes down on the pedal.
So she grabs a champagne bottle and beats Tia Carrere almost to death with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then climbs out the sunroof because Arnold is like, get the chopper near the limo. And she like climbs up and grabs on just in time for the limo to then go over into the water, saving them both. They then end up on a different island in the Keys where they watch the explosion happen and make out. Almost like, yay, everything's fine.
Yep.
But no, wait, roughly 90 minutes from when they found out they had a daughter, they have now kidnapped her daughter, and she is in a building in what we will assume is probably Miami.
You thought this movie was over? You thought you could take a piss break? You're wrong. More action.
More action.
I do think it's funny that like they could just like cut to credits here, because just like the terrorists through most of this movie, we also forgot that they had a daughter.
Yeah.
Which, also, this point in the movie is 23 minutes from the end of the movie, which means if you cut here, this movie would only be about about an hour and 50 minutes, which is actually not a bad length. That would be a pretty solid, trim action movie. But instead, we have this whole next sequence where Arnold jumps into a fighter jet, takes off, flies to this skyscraper where His team has already beat him there somehow.
Oh my
despite
God.
him being in a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Although it is one, no, because that guy was in the plane with Tom Arnold. So yeah, somehow that guy beat him there.
Embedded inside with them, yeah.
Embedded inside as the news crew or whatever. And here's the thing. Let's argue and say that, like, because the news crew is there and they've got a hostage, they're holding out, that it's been a couple hours. What's Arnold doing with the plane? Because, like, that's a fighter jet, which means it's going to get there way faster than a normal jet. And it's not like you could just park it. Like, what are you going to do with
He
it?
just hovered, just like waited.
It's just hover. But so the guy who's embedded shoots a couple on floor 21. His daughter steals the key for detonating the nuke and runs up onto the roof and then out onto a crane. The leader guy follows her. And then the rest of the terrorists are all on floor 20. What rest of the terrorists after we've killed somehow 90 plus of these people?
The kidnap crew.
Yeah, but they just exist so James Cameron can use a Harrier jet to mow them down.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yes.
There's one that like literally gets lifted into the air and pushed back as like they're shooting on that floor. It's an amazing shot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he shoots out that entire floor. Then he goes up and hovers right under the crane and is just like, jump, jump. And meanwhile, the terrorist guy shoots out the like windshield and everything for the plane, which like they don't account for. If you're that high up in the air, it is windy. You couldn't hear anything. There'd be like blowing. It's impossible.
No, but he's fully yelling to his daughter who's like hanging on the like
as
scaffolding
if it's
above
a car
her.
chase.
Yeah,
Yes.
but this is a Harrier jet with its engines blowing 2 tons of a vehicle up into the sky. Yeah, it would be like,
Right.
what? Like, there's a reason the air traffic control dudes, the dudes that are on the bridge, are wearing like earmuffs, you know?
Yeah. But she does jump on. They have this like fight with the terrorist guy jumps on too. They like thrust forward so he gets nailed in the nards by like the back of the plane.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's when it like backs into the building. It's like
Yeah.
the rest of this is just silly. I love it.
Wait, there was a custodian there too.
Yes, because the custodian cleans the entire room. We're sort of getting it through the montage of them like figuring out how to get her to hold onto the plane and he jumping onto the plane. And then like as he's done with the room and walking out of it to go to the next one, it like backs into the room and destroys what he just
No.
cleaned. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets like a reaction shot where he's like looking over the destroyed like
Yeah. And when he's like just listening to salsa music.
yes.
As if he didn't hear the entire floor above him get completely gunned
Yeah,
out.
like everyone on the floor above him got murked.
Yes.
And he's just like, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. It's so crazy.
Meanwhile, after they've backed into the building and we get the terrorist nards, he goes to like thrust forward, which shoots him forward along the wing. He falls and catches on one of the missiles under one of the wings. And so this is where he says, "You're fired." And he fires the missile through the building to hit the other helicopter of terrorists that escaped from floor whatever.
1,000,001 shot, Paige. 1,000,001 shot.
1,000,001 shot.
That's how good he is.
And then he lands the jet in the street.
I do love that when he lands it like bumps into a cop car. Like he's not that great at flying Harriers, guys.
Yeah.
No. 1 year later, we see them as a happy family, but then they get a phone call and it's like, Boris and Doris, you're on. We cut to them seemingly on a mission, but then they run into, who is it? Bill Paxton.
I love it.
He pees again and she just says, fear is not an option. And we end with them having a very sexy tango. And
that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you guys think about True Lies?
I mean, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's still one of my top 3 favorite Arnold movies. Probably like one of my like top 10 action movies of all time. Obsessed. Love it.
Yeah.
I have worked 13 days in a row. I woke up this morning at 3 a.m. my time in Philly, flew all the way here, and then worked all day. And I could not wait to watch this movie and record. That's how much I like this movie.
It's a sick movie.
I will watch this movie a few times a year, every year until I'm dead. It's just like a fun Cameron action movie, and I really enjoy it.
It's perfectly in that like era of filmmaking where CGI hadn't completely taken over. A lot of it's practical, and they were willing to invest a shit ton of money into a really good director and a really good cast. I didn't feel like there was like weird Hollywood politics with like pushing an actor that, was like a ill-fitted for the role.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. It was just like a really good, well-executed movie.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts.
True lies, fun facts. So Arnold Schwarzenegger almost died shooting this movie because he was on the horse. The horse got startled and ran. Schwarzenegger managed to slide off the horse, but almost did a 30-foot drop off. So it was when it was running through the park, and it was like this little overcropping or whatever.
Oh, geez.
But his stuntman saw what happened and was able to grab Arnold before he actually went over the ledge.
Wow.
Yeah. One of his biggest challenges for the movie was actually learning to dance. He rehearsed the tango for about 6 months because he, quote, wanted to be as good at the tango as Al Pacino was in Scent of a Woman, which, of course, does actually use the same tango song.
And this is like a thing in these types of movies. Like, there's a lot of like tango dances in action adventure rom-coms.
Yeah. So Schwarzenegger was not supposed to drop the tape recorder. James Cameron really liked it and kept it in. And part of the reason he dropped it is because Jamie Curtis, first of all, brought her own lingerie for that scene. Great.
Whoa.
Good choice, Jamie.
Okay.
Secondly, she rehearsed the scene extensively with James Cameron, but not with anyone else. So like he knew it was going to happen. Other people didn't. So the fall that she does in the middle of it was rehearsed, but they didn't tell Arnold or anyone it was going to happen. So when she did it, you can see he kind of gets up out of the chair because he's like worried she's hurt. And then she keeps dancing. So he kind of relaxed. And then after that first take, they told him, hey, it is planned. She knows this is going to happen or whatever. So they tried to do another take with it. But because he knew it was going to happen, it didn't look that spontaneous. But in that first one where he was like, oh no, that's part of when he dropped the tape recorder.
Okay.
Tom Arnold didn't expect to get cast in this. He went to the audition so he could meet James Cameron because he was a fan.
That's awesome.
That is great, yeah. And he's great in this. I think this is my favorite movie he's in.
Couldn't imagine another person in that role.
The only one I could think would be like a Danny DeVito type, and that's only because of the twin stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, and I was honestly thinking of like, if you were to recast this today, who would that be?
Oh, today.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of different ways you could go with it, but it would depend on who you had in Arnold's role, I think.
Who would for Jamie Lee Curtis's part?
I nominate the guy who was dating Paige's roommate.
Honestly, he would have crushed it. Anyway, so yeah, Tom went because he was like, oh, I'm a fan of James Cameron. And then James Cameron loved the chemistry he had with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's why they hired him. Because Cameron didn't really know that Tom had a really bad reputation at the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, because his divorce with Roseanne was bad for both of them, where he was having some substance problems at the time, 100%. She notably was as well. There were allegations of abuse on both sides. It's bad all around. And he has had a history of outbursts and scandals and like, especially at the time, this was not a good time to be him as far as like trying to get good career PR.
Interesting.
They are real Harrier jets in the movie. The U.S. government supplied them for a fee of $100,736 per hour.
Oh my God.
God.
Hour.
Dude, that's like indie film budgets.
An hour.
An hour.
Oh my God.
James Cameron does make a cameo as the helicopter pilot who says, yeah, she's got her head in his lap. Yahoo.
Oh, that's amazing.
Dude, he did great. He's just such a monotone delivery. It's so good.
It does sound
so
like
good.
just a rank and file helicopter pilot, you know?
Now, James Cameron did also write the script for this, but he wrote it based on a suggestion from Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose brother-in-law, Robert Shriver, had shown him a French film called The Jackpot from 1991. And Schwarzenegger wanted to do a film like that because he thought the super secret agent character was interesting. And Cameron, this was like the first time Schwarzenegger had ever suggested something based on an interest in a character, because usually he'd be like, what if we explode things? But basically he posed the question, who would James Bond be if he got home and had to answer to his wife? Now, in response to the credits at the beginning of the movie, where it's like the two big names and then it's the rest of the credits. So Jamie Lee Curtis has said that Schwarzenegger had in his contract that he would get top billing, then the title, then it would have said starring Jamie Lee Curtis. However, when James Cameron finished editing the film, he saw that it was really about both of them. So he phoned Schwarzenegger and asked if it would be okay to put Jamie Lee Curtis's name next to his before the title. And Schwarzenegger agreed. So yeah, that is actually a very, very, in show business, that's a very big deal.
Yeah, that's great, honestly.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis has also said this is, quote, without question, the greatest experience of my professional life so far. This is her favorite movie she's made.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Also, like, Schwarzenegger, huge superstar, obviously. Jamie Lee Curtis isn't anything to, like, turn your nose up at. Like, she is superstar as well.
Well,
Like,
she's
like,
Hollywood royalty, too.
Yeah.
yeah, she's Scream Queen. Like,
Yeah.
she's got it all.
Yeah. Harry's horse was played by 4 different horses because they each had different skills.
And one of those horses' skill was just be able to stand in an elevator while it moves.
Without fucking losing your mind and
Yes.
kicking someone to death. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll end on this fun one. There's a ton of fun facts about this movie. If you want to go dig into them, please do it. Or watch the documentary on Netflix about Arnold because he talks about this movie as well. But he did all of his own horseback riding. And he says he, quote, could not have done it without his riding experience from the Conan movies.
Cool.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So, what do you think the production budget was for True Lies in 1994?
I know, so I have to recuse myself.
Blaine, do you want to even take a guess?
I know, so I also cannot say.
Remember how much the Harrier jets cost
Yeah.
per hour?
Jesus.
So I'll then just clue the audience in. It's $100 million is the budget for this movie, which if you adjust for inflation is like $212 million today. This movie premiered on July 15th, 1994 and was the #1 movie that weekend. It beat the #2 movie, Forrest Gump. The #3 movie was The Lion King. #4 was Angels in the Outfield, and #5 was Speed. You know, so some pretty unknown movies there. What do you think True Lies brought in its opening weekend?
But now that I just did some quick bad math, and if they use the jets for like 5 hours, that's a 1% of the movie's budget. Like,
Yeah,
probably
just the
like
jets.
2 or 3% of the movie's budget was those fucking Harrier jets.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are only featured in about 8 minutes of the film.
But worth it though, because when you think about this movie, you obviously think about the dude just getting blown through the fucking building and blowing out a helicopter.
Yeah.
Anyways, budget wise,
No, how much did it bring in its opening weekend?
I'm going to say like 18 million.
yeah. God, it's hard to think because like ticket prices back then were not a lot.
Well, and there's a lot of other stuff out, like Speed and everything. Like that's what's kind of factoring in for
I mean,
me.
the top 5 was a murderer's row of movies that came
Yeah.
out that year.
This is also Schwarzenegger we're talking. He brings
Yeah.
asses in seats. So I'd say like, yeah, sub 20 mil.
$25 million, guys,
Oh,
in its
okay,
opening
all right,
weekend. It's
all
actually
right.
25.8. It was almost $26 million. So not bad at all.
we were both pretty close.
Yeah. It was in theaters for 25 weeks. It was in the top 5 for its first 6 weeks and was in the top 10 for its first 11 weeks.
That's 6 months in theaters, by the way. Like that's
If I could watch that in theaters today, I would absolutely do it.
I would go too. I would 100% go to the Belcourt here in town or whatever to see that. That would be awesome.
What an experience.
But yeah, for the first 11 weeks, it was in the top 10. That's insane. So,
Hell yeah.
do you guys know what it brought in domestically at the box office? Or do you want to guess?
Oh, I'm going to say this brings in domestically 170 million.
All right. Blaine, do you want to take a guess?
I'd double its budget for domestic.
So we're right on 200. It actually brought in 146.2 million, but Blaine, internationally, it brought in $219 million. So the total box office for this movie was actually 365, but not that 365 page, $365.3 million, which if you adjust for inflation is $775.3 million.
Wow.
That's an insane amount of money.
But that tracks, and it also, I'm surprised it did so well overseas because it is so America, you know?
It is very America, yes. But Paige, That's your box office. Do you want to hit us with that romance scale?
Sure. Our romance scale is a scale of 1 to 4. So on a scale of 1 to 4, how romantic did you find this movie?
I'll give it a 2.
I was going to give it a number 2 as well.
Yeah.
Big old deuce.
Yeah. It is about a couple learning that they need to communicate with each other and falling back in love and finding the spark that just reignites their passion as that nuke blows up behind them in the background.
But there was a lot of lies, a telephone being slammed into someone else's head, and a literal truth serum required to mend their marriage.
Right.
Oh, you mean all the things that are like metaphors for doing the work in therapy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they were that. Yeah. I'm going to go 1.5 mainly because of the kidnapping.
I'll take it. But Paige, what about that roar scale though? 1 to 4 scale, how sexy we thought it was?
I'm going to give
Maybe
this a 2
3.
on the roar scale. Yeah, at least a 2 because Jamie Lee Curtis earns that 2 on her own.
She does. Like that's a pretty intense scene for her.
Yeah.
What's roar scale? Is that like how sexy?
How sexy we thought it was.
Blaine, to give you an idea of how we named this scale and why,
Uh-huh.
You're going to hate this.
in 365 Part 2, there is a very explicit sex scene in which the Foley artists added in animal noises of like lion roars, and
Cool.
thus the roar scale was born.
Okay.
It's a literal scale of how many roars we think if the audio designer for the 365 series, how many roars would we have heard in the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. If we're talking like steamy sex scenes and stuff like that, yeah, like that, this doesn't make it. I'm giving it a 3 though. That Jamie Lee Curtis dance sequence is
Yeah.
like engraved into my mind. That made
Sure.
me from a little boy into a little man.
Yes, 100%. I was going to get at that because like I don't remember a time I hadn't seen this movie and I always remembered that scene.
I feel like
Yeah.
for many men your age, it is like this and Ripley getting out of the like pod.
Holy shit. That
Yeah.
and Slave Leia.
Yes.
Oh, Slave Leia. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But that's your romance and roar scales, I suppose. So, Paige, this week we watched True Lies. Next week, I'm going to make you watch the movie that I wanted to do forever ago and that I built this whole theme around.
Yep.
And that we're actually going to have another special guest for. I'm very excited about. But I'm going to make you watch The Fall Guy for next week,
Yay.
which I saw earlier in this year, and I really liked it.
I haven't seen it. I waited because I figured we'd do it.
I watched it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling's super lovable, and Emily Blunt is, surprise, surprise, incredible and
Yeah.
lovable.
Yeah, always.
It's great. Yeah, anyway. So I'm going to make you guys watch that next week, and then we'll visit it with a guest.
We'll have fun.
But Blaine, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode on True Lies. It was honestly wonderful having you here for it. Where can people find more of what you do?
Yeah, so I've been on and off with different things, but Rooster Teeth shut down, so now I am over with Tales from the Sneaky Dragon. We launched a really great Patreon. We actually just today announced that we're teaming up with Critical Role, who is like the Disney of D&D.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was a
Yes, I know Critical
huge-
Role very well. Yes.
I
Okay,
have
that's
multiple
amazing.
friends that work at Critical Role now.
And they
Yes.
all seem really happy. We've been in so
Oh,
many
they love
meetings
it.
with them, and everyone's like thrilled and happy and smiling in meetings, and they have like such a diverse crew, and it's just like it's such
Yeah.
a cool place to be working with. So that's awesome. And then
awesome, man.
also
Congrats.
Chris and I don't know when this episode's coming out. Wait, when is this episode coming out?
Next Thursday.
Next week.
Keep an eye out. Something else is coming down the road. There's a reason that I'm on here, and then another friend of mine is going to be on here shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Can't get into details, or else I'd have to kill you, Arnold Schwarzenegger style.
Yeah.
I'd have to snap your neck.
There you go.
After Spider-Maning down a rope.
That's right. But yeah, I got cool things on the horizon I'm very excited about. So it's been a fun year. Lost my job, but things are coming up, Blaine.
Yay.
Everything's turning up, Blaine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Blaine. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you guys like this show and want to hear our other show where we talk about horror movies, that is The Horror Virgin. That's the only other podcast I am on, but Paige is also on Cult Podcast, which you can find at Cult Podcast. And you can find us on social media. I am at Todd J. Awesome, literally everywhere. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Instagram.
No, it's at Rampage Wesley on Instagram and TikTok, at Paige Wesley on Twitter.
That's right. All right. So that's where you can find Paige. If you want to find the show, we are at Romancing the Pod Show, right?
Yep, Romancing Pod Show on Twitter.
Well, and Instagram, right?
And Instagram, but it's show SHO because character limits. If you start typing Romancing the Pod, it'll come up.
It'll definitely come up on Instagram. I don't know about Twitter because I haven't posted on Twitter in a hot ass minute. So, like, who knows? But That is where you can find more of us. So yeah, guys, give us a follow. Support the show any way you can. We'd love it.
Smash that like button.
Hell yeah.
That's going to be it for us. You guys, I'm Paige.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion. That's my best Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's
really-
terrible.
Yeah.
To completion. I can't do it. Bye.
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 All my impressions sound terrible, nerds.
La 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 la.